3:30 on the calendar in the matter of Davis versus Brown.
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated.
Ms. Davis, according to the complaint that I've read, you and the defendant lived together for a period of time. It is your claim that when you moved in together, you put down a substantial amount of money, almost, I think, $4,000. You call it a down payment on the house. You say that Mr. Brown subsequently kicked you out of the house and you want that money back. You also said that he's used a video card where you rent videos from a store without your permission. It belonged to you. He didn't return the videos, and you now have a very extensive bill from that store. Mr. Brown says you never gave him a dime, and he's got a counterclaim for bills that he claims you owe him, and he says you've been bothering him that he doesn't like, so he wants you to pay for his trouble. Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, Ms. Davis, when did you move in with the defendant?
Your Honor, I would like to tell you how my ex-boyfriend did me wrong. He moved in with me in November of 2000.
But listen to my question. When did you move in together in a place where you claim you put money down?
In June of 2001.
That's wrong.
Shh. Now listen, I'm going to get to you. So don't interrupt her. We do things in a very orderly way here. It's the only way that I can function. Otherwise, I become frustrated. And Bird doesn't like it when I get frustrated. When did you move in together? June of 2001? Very good. And was this a house or an apartment?
It was a mobile home.
Was it a rental?
No, ma'am.
He bought it?
Process of buying, yes, ma'am.
And you say you gave him how much money?
It was $4,366.
And where did you get that money from?
I traded my mobile home in on the one that he purchased.
Okay, do you have any evidence of that transaction? All right, sir. I seem to have some evidence would tend to indicate, Mr. Brown, that she did not, in fact, give you any money towards the purpose of your mobile home.
Exactly, she did not.
Listen to me carefully, sir. I have evidence that she did not give you any money towards the purchase of your mobile home. But I have evidence here that she traded in her mobile home
No, ma'am.
as a partial down payment for a mobile home that went into your name.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. What has transpired was a mobile home that was sold from her cousin to me for $500, which we used as a trade-in.
Yeah, but they gave you credit for $4,366 as a down payment credit.
That was the value of the mobile home. I'm buying something for $500 and trading in for another amount. That's just like a good business transaction.
Your Honor,
Does it make sense? It's a profitable business transaction. If you can buy a car for $200 and sell it for $2,000, that's a smart buy. So that's exactly what I did. I took a smart buy and used it to advance in a better home for me and my children.
Something doesn't sound right, sir.
It doesn't.
Does it sound right to you? He buys it for $500 from her cousin and then uses it, and they give him a down payment credit of $4,366.
I also gave in a $2,500 cash deposit as well.
On or about June 26, 2001, traded in her 1964 Windsor mobile home as a down payment on a 1998 Horton manufactured home.
Right.
This 1998 Horton manufactured was being purchased by David R. Brown. We gave Miss $4,366 on a down payment credit on the 1998 Horton.
Yes. Now, where's her name? Is that on any of the transaction?
Show that to him.
Your Honor, the reason why my name is not on there because the title was never changed over into my name, but I have a receipt where I purchased the mobile home before I met him.
It's for a different mobile home she's speaking of. And we never used that mobile home as a trade-in. This right here is sufficient. This right here is sufficient. And her name is not on there in that transaction because she has no involvement in the transaction.
I never said my name was on the mobile home, Your Honor.
She gave me these monies in her mobile home and her name is not on anything. Does that make any sense?
That is my cousin.
Her cousin.
Oh.
Her
So
name
they
ain't-
gave Miss $4,366 for the down payment.
Yes, ma'am. 'cause
All right. Forget it. I don't look into that. Your name was not on the title to that mobile home?
No, ma'am. because
All right,
At
then
the
forget
time,
it.
I did not have a job, but I have a receipt where I bought the mobile home from Miss.
Show me.
Do you have the receipt?
You mean
up there?
this? $500?
Yes, and I also have this right
You
here.
have this? Is this what you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
That's nothing. That's nothing. That's something that you buy in a grocery store.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She won't leave me alone. We broke up, let it go. Guess she's steady looking for a payout for something she knows she's not owed to.
Mr. Brown, I believe you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Morticia Davis says ex-boyfriend David Brown owes her for the down payment on a mobile home and unpaid video rentals. David says her lawsuit is bogus.
Now, what about this video card?
When I got evicted out the mobile home, he used my blockbuster
When did he evict
card.
you from the mobile home?
May. She moved out of the home before the eviction took place. So therefore,
What do you mean there was an eviction? Had you gone to court to evict her?
I went to court to evict her.
Why is that?
Because there was South Carolina state law. If once someone established residence in your home, in order for them to move out against their will, you have to evict them out.
All right, so the relationship wasn't going well, I
It
assume.
was downhill from.
Do you have children together?
No, we do not. Thank God.
Perfect. Okay, so what about this video card?
Well, when he got his new girlfriend evicted me, I got some bills in the mail, which he used my card illegally at 3 different blockbusters, never took the videos back.
Show me. You were evicted in May, is that right?
Yes.
Well, this is March of 2002.
Thank you.
This is March of 2002.
That's when he used
This
the
is
cards,
March
Your
of
Honor.
2002.
And we both
This is
reside-
shh. This is March of 2002, and this is March of 2002. So this
After
is
I got evicted, that's when I got the bills in the mail, which he had used them.
No.
Well, listen to me, Miss Davis.
Yes.
How do what? You lived together in March of 2002. You were
He was
sharing a
not
home.
there in March,
Quiet.
Your Honor. He was not there. He lived with his new girlfriend until I got evicted.
Lie.
He was
Listen
not
to
there.
me.
Lie.
You kind of.
She's lying, Your Honor.
I don't want to say it again. It doesn't appear as if you're doing badly in this lawsuit so far. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
But what can happen is you can lose if you open your mouth again. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
You have any of these movies home, sir?
No, I do not.
It's not going to admit.
Do you know where they are?
The last was left in the home that she was residing in. Now, what she did with them after that, I don't know.
Your Honor, that's not true.
I haven't been back into the house. At the time, I was out the house from late part of March all the way up until April, May,
Now he's
back in
now
May.
he's
Don't
telling
interrupt him.
back into May.
All right, you have no case, Miss Davis. That's you. Do you want to get to your counterclaim? Mr. Brown.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You said she owes you bills.
Yes, ma'am.
What does she owe you bills for?
For rent, electric bill.
She doesn't owe you for rent. You weren't anticipating any rent from her.
I loaned her a few $100s for a couple of car note payments.
Yeah, go ahead. What else?
And
Chalk it up to experience. What else?
harassment.
Well, I have a feeling that that's true, that she's been harassing you.
And she just don't.
I have a feeling that that's probably true. So you want to tell me about the harassment?
I mean, she caused problems with me at work. She caused problems with me and my children. I'm a single parent of 2 children. Today is my son's birthday. I should be home with him instead of her in this courtroom. But Ms. Davis again want to file a lawsuit that she know she have no bearing to hold on. So therefore, it's just constantly she won't leave me alone. We broke up, let it go. But yes, she's steady looking for a payout for something she knows she's not owed to.
I believe you. I believe that she has made it her mission at this portion in her life to make your life miserable. That's what I believe. Put your hand down.
Judge
Why can't you just say it didn't work out, period, end of discussion? While you were living together for that year, where were you working?
Interim health care.
Okay.
And I took care of 4 kids.
What did you do with your money?
I paid bills.
What bills?
I have light bills, water bills, phone bills.
He paid the rent.
Yes, that's all he paid was the rent and the land payment.
What about the food?
I got that.
No,
Really?
I was on food stamps, Your Honor.
was not. She was not. And as far as the electric bills and bills, those bills are in my name. And then she couldn't pay those bills. That's why I'm here now about the electric bill and bills that she has now.
Your Honor, I have these bills. Yes, they was in his name, but I paid them.
Show me.
After the fact that I left the house and I had these utilities cut off because she refused to pay them.
You mean after you left in March?
After I left in March. She was running them up in my name. Therefore, I had these bills.
Your Honor, that's not true.
Disconnected.
Yeah, this is April. I want to see anything before that, madam, before you were in the house by yourself. You have proof that you paid any bills?
I paid all my bills, Your Honor.
Listen to what I'm saying.
No, Your
to
Honor,
you.
that is all I have.
Right. That I can understand.
And
He
Mr.
moved
Brown
out-
had those bills in his name because he moved up there before I did. That's why they was in
Pay
his name.
careful attention to me.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you have a checking account?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
So all you have to do was to bring to court today, since you knew that he was counterclaiming for bills.
Your Honor, I didn't
proof,
know.
Proof? What do you mean you didn't know?
I didn't know he was countersuing me.
Really? When did you file your counterclaim, sir?
Monday.
When did you serve her?
He haven't.
Oh, then it's dismissed. Your counterclaim's dismissed. But not only is your counterclaim dismissed, Mr. Brown, but so is your lawsuit. And I'm going to make this suggestion to you. Sometimes things don't work out. How old are you?
I'm 24.
You have children?
I have two. I'm a single parent.
Put a period, this is over, and devote all of your energies to working and your two children. Leave him alone. He doesn't owe you any money.
I
Goodbye.
don't harass him, Your Honor.
All these are excused. You may step out.
He jumped on me twice, and the mobile home was mine, which I didn't have the title with me.
Many a times she had me arrested for domestic criminal violence, something that I didn't do.
He's not going to do anything without being in the courtroom because he think he can get away with a lot of stuff.
She came in here, Judge Judy seen between the lies and what she was trying to tell, didn't get nothing. Justice was served for the first time.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Robinson versus Bradford. Step forward, please.
Psychotherapist Cliff Robinson is suing his former friend, lab technician Angela Bradford, for the cost to repair his car window. Angela is countersuing also for the cost of a car window.
Mr. Robinson, it is your claim that the defendant's son broke a window in your car, that the defendant, who was a friend of yours, agreed to fix it and did not pay you the money that it cost you to fix this rear window. Was it a rear window of your car?
Rear quarter panel, yes.
Ms. Bradford says, I think she's saying that she had initially agreed to pay for the window. Is that right?
That is correct.
But later, your son broke one of her windows in her car, and you should pay for that window. Is that your defense?
It is.
So let's make this as simple as we can, because Bird knows that I like to keep things simple. How much was the window in your car, Mr. Robinson?
The window itself, Your Honor, came to $972.29.
Let me see.
I have pictures and the estimate.
Well, I'm just curious because in here you say that my window cost $800 to replace, sir.
That's with the labor and what it cost to.
What did
everything
it cost you?
$972, whatever the difference was.
How did you pay for this?
Cash.
No. Not even sure about this bill. What kind of window was this?
It's a rear quarter panel window in the Eddie Bauer Expedition.
Oh,
It's
so it's a big window.
a big window.
Okay. Now, the only question that I have is whether or not you are in any way responsible for damage that she alleges your son did to her window. So, Ms. Bradford, I read your answer and I read your cross-complaint. And it appeared to me that you two were friends.
Correct.
How many children do you have?
I have 4.
And there came a time when, after this incident involving his car, he brought his kids over to your house to play
Correct.
and asked you if you would watch his kids for a while.
For 15 minutes, which turned into an hour and a half.
Whatever. You agreed to take care of his
I did.
children. And it was while you were in charge of his children that your car window was broken.
Correct.
Should have taken care of him better. Do you understand?
I hear exactly what you're saying, Mona.
Because It was your job to supervise the children because you had assumed that responsibility when he left his kids there. Therefore, if something happened to your car as a result of a ball being thrown, that's your problem, not his. It's a lot of money. Do you have any insurance, sir?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Well, what's your deductible?
$1,000.
Do you have any proof that you have a $1,000 deductible?
I didn't bring any insurance with the information.
Why is that?
I didn't think it was relevant.
Well, it is relevant, sir. It's relevant how much out of pocket you had. Are you telling me that you actually paid Collins Auto Glass $972 in
That's
cash?
correct.
Let's give them a call and find out. You know these people?
No, I don't.
They were just people you chose randomly?
That's correct.
Okay, good. In Seattle, Washington, for Collins Auto Glass. So there is no Collins Auto Glass in Seattle. Mr. Robinson, sir, is this Collins Auto Glass in Seattle?
Yes, it is.
Well, they don't have a listing form in Seattle, sir.
Well, I know in...
They don't have a listing form in Seattle, Washington. There is a phone number on here, sir. 206 number? There is a phone number here. It's your phone number. The only phone number that appears on this is your phone number.
Yeah, my information is on there, and then in the... I don't know.
Show it to him.
Yeah, that's my telephone number.
That's correct.
Oh, yeah, no. I don't.
Collins Auto Glass doesn't have a phone number for their business. They also don't know how to spell residential.
Well, I know in June, when I got it fixed, there was a Collins Auto Glass. I got it out of the Yellow Pages.
Well, it must have been their last job, Mr. Robinson, because they closed down. They're not there anymore. Sort of interesting. But I'm holding you to what your complaint says. So your sworn complaint says it was $800 to replace. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $800. On your counterclaim, Ms. Bradford, I've already explained to you the children were under your supervision when your car window got broken. So if you weren't supervising them adequately, I can't fault him for that. That's all.
Now, this is case number 482 on the calendar in the matter of Simon versus Ream. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. Simons, a relatively simple case. You want the engagement ring back. Is that right?
Yes, please.
And Ms. Ream, I've read your answer, and it's sort of like one from column A, one from column B. You have the following defenses, according to what I read. Number one, it wasn't an engagement ring because you never said yes.
Yes.
If you don't buy that, it was an engagement ring, but he told you you should keep it even if you didn't get married, correct?
Yes.
And number three, in case you don't buy those two, it was an engagement ring. There was no deal for me to keep it. I would have given it back, but it got stolen.
Yes, ma'am.
So you don't have it anymore.
No, ma'am.
Is that right? When did you give her the ring?
I think it was May of 2001.
And how long had you known her?
I met her in November. I knew her approximately 6 months and gave her the ring.
Okay, what kind of a ring was it?
It was an engagement ring.
Can I see the receipt for it?
I have the receipt. Plus, Your Honor, at the time, I had just moved, and I didn't have the receipt for the second half of the ring, but I've found that, and I've got that. So here are those two receipts.
What do you mean the
Here's,
second half of the ring?
You know, the band that goes, connects as
Oh, you
one.
mean the wedding bands?
Yeah, yes.
Set.
Yes, ma'am, yes. And that's the other half that I still have, which
I'm
does
just
mean no good.
Okay, where is this? Did you give her both of these rings?
No.
You have one?
I have one, yes.
Okay, so it's $969.75.
Yes, Judge, yes.
Okay. So you gave it to her in May, and you broke up when?
Around July, things started falling apart.
July of
2001.
2001. When did you ask for the ring back?
Around August, I believe, the end of July.
What'd she tell you?
She agreed. We both agreed that it wasn't going to work out, and I went to pick up the ring. she had told me that she let some carpet cleaning people into her house and she was afraid to be alone with these men. So she left. And when I got there, she went to get the ring, it was gone. It's funny because there was lots of jewelry, diamonds, everything, but they only took mine, my little ring. And I couldn't understand that. That didn't make sense to me.
Okay, just a second. So you broke up in July, and it was a month later that you went over to get the ring.
Correct.
But you had asked for it when?
Probably at the end of July.
Okay, and she said come over in August.
Yes. Well, she kept saying it might work, I hope it works, it might work, it may not work. So we tried, and it wasn't going anywhere.
Okay. Now I'll hear you.
Like it said, I lost my husband prior to that, and I was very vulnerable. And
I'm not interested in that.
Okay,
I mean, not that I'm insensitive,
okay,
madam. It has
okay.
nothing to do with the ring.
But, okay, well, we started dating, and I told him I wasn't ready to get married. And he got pushy about the ring. And then he asked me to marry him in May, and I told him I wasn't ready. And then he said, keep it as a gift. And think about it.
All right, let's just say nothing. Say nothing. I don't believe that. Go to the next defense.
Okay, I put it into my jewelry box for safekeeping, and so then, like he said, I had the cleaners come. I had to go pick up my daughter from school. It should have only taken 15 to 20 minutes, and so I went to pick her up, came back, and there was some coins and a little bit of jewelry missing, and the ring, and he made me call the police, and we made a police report. It's right here, and it couldn't be an engagement ring because he dated other women. He verbally abused me. He verbally abused my daughter.
I'm not interested.
Okay. But it just was an engagement ring.
Sure, it was an engagement ring. It was an engagement ring because he bought not only the ring, he bought the wedding band.
I told him I wasn't ready to get married. He told me to keep it.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you. You owe him $975. Let me explain something to you. If you have a ring and if you break up with him and if you're not going to see him anymore, you give him back the ring. Case closed.
I tried to.
Case closed. In July, you don't hold on to it and put it in a box for safekeeping. That is, if in fact you put it in a box for safekeeping and you didn't go sell it someplace, which I think you probably did, or you still have it and maybe you're going to give it to your daughter or somebody else. In the meantime, if it doesn't work out, why should he feel as if you've taken advantage of him? Why?
It was the other way. He told me he needed money for tires. Constantly always after me for money. All the time. That's what this is all about. He just told me he's going to take me to court to get tires because he needs new tires and because he just bought another house.
Listen to me very carefully, madam.
He's taken advantage of me from the very beginning.
Then how old are you?
I'm 38, but I'm very well put together. At the time I wasn't. I was distraught.
Listen to me. You don't look like the kind of person that anybody takes advantage of.
I just lost my husband and my mom got diagnosed with cancer, and he knew this.
Listen to me. Listen to me. If you were grieving over your husband, you don't take a ring from somebody else.
I know that. I know that now.
But you did. But you did.
Made a
and by
mistake.
taking a ring from somebody, what you're really saying is, I'm interested. I'm interested. That's leading somebody on. That's cruel. That's unkind. And in my judgment, after listening to both of these stories and hearing your three defenses, A, I didn't say yes. B, if I said yes, he told me to keep it anyway, even if we broke up. And C, it got stolen. I don't believe you. After he came over and looked for the ring, you said, I'm sorry, my other stuff is here, but your ring is gone. He said, well, file a police report, which is what you did, correct? Anywhere in the police report did it say that there was evidence of a burglary?
Yes.
Well, show me. Show me
There's a
where.
police
No,
report.
read it where it says there was evidence of burglary.
Right here on the top, it says crime, burglary.
Show me where the police wrote down that there was evidence of a burglary, not what you claim there was.
It doesn't say burglary, but it says she opened the top drawer and discovered her ring missing.
Right, that's what you said. That's not what the...
That's what he said.
No,
he also did this police report with me.
Miss Reed, I mean, are you just thick? He comes over to get his ring. You go in with him to your drawer. You open the drawer with him. You say, oh, your ring must have been taken. along with some other coins that I might have there. That's too bad. Then you go and file a police report because he says, according to you, that you should go and file a police report, which is what you did. That doesn't mean the police found any evidence of a burglary because there was no burglary. You have insurance, by the way?
Whatever.
You have insurance on your other jewelry?
No, I don't.
Okay. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of the ring, which was $969.75. Ms. Ream, I don't believe you. Goodbye.
You don't have
Thank
to.
you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He was always telling me to buy him things and stuff like that and saying, well, you got money, you got money.
I own 2 homes, and she told me to sell my homes and give her all my money.
He sues everybody. This is not his first time he sued somebody. He's sue happy.
She used to call me on the phone and threaten me and tell me if I go to court, I'll be sorry.
He's a liar and he took advantage and he knows it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Smith versus Henderson. Step forward, please.
Maintenance man Joe Smith is suing his former live-in lover, paratransit driver Lisa Henderson, for the return of property. Lisa is countersuing for damages to her home and mental anguish.
According to your complaint, you folks lived together for about 4 years. And at some point, Mr. Smith, you were arrested on a domestic violence charge. Either domestic violence or violating a protective order that Ms. Henderson had obtained. It is your claim that while you were incarcerated, she took your property and she won't give it back to you. You did get some of your property, but she still has a whole bunch of your stuff.
Correct.
That's what your lawsuit is about. Ms. Henderson says that you got everything that you're entitled to. What you didn't take yourself, an uncle of yours came and picked up. And she is counterclaiming for some damage that you did to her door when you were violating this protective order. So that's what we have. When were you arrested, Mr. Smith, for the first time on this charge of domestic violence?
That was like almost 4 years ago. I don't remember the exact date.
That's not the time that you took your property.
Yes, that's the previous time. It happened twice.
How many times have you been arrested altogether for domestic violence?
Once.
No, it had to be more than once. You said once 4 years ago, once more recently.
No, this was for violating a restraining order for just going to the residence. There wasn't any violence involved.
Is that right?
Yeah, he was charged twice. One for holding me captive in my apartment
When
I
was that?
was 6 months pregnant in January of 2000. And he was convicted of that charge. We got back together.
A testament to your good judgment.
Yeah. October 17th of last year, I had a restraining order issued to him. 2 hours and 15 minutes later, after he was served, he kicked in the front door.
Now, why was another protective order issued in October of 2002?
Because we were not getting along in the household. I asked Mr. Smith to leave my house. He was...
How long had he been living there?
For like 4 months. And we were not getting along.
So he's living there for 4 months. You weren't getting along. But no violence.
No. The police had to come out one incident in September where he threatened to put a hit out on me. Before that, he said he doesn't like my son and he never will. So I said, you need to get your belongings and get up out of my house. If you don't like my son, you don't care for me.
What happened in October?
I asked him to give him a certain amount of time to get his personal belongings and give him enough time to move out.
Did she do that?
No.
No,
Shh, just a second, don't interrupt. She didn't say to you, you have a week or 2 days or 48
she said,
hours?
get out right now.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
We split everything in the household.
So he paid his way. So he wasn't just coming to visit on weekends, right?
Right.
Well, that's not what you say in here.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Joe Smith says ex-girlfriend Lisa Henderson won't return his property. Lisa says Joe threatened to put a hit out on her.
What did you do when she told you to get out?
I told her I couldn't because I had just paid my rent, PG&E, and cable, and I have the receipts for that.
So you were paying the bills?
Yes.
Some of the bills at
Yes.
least there. So you said, I'm not leaving because I'm paid up through November 1st.
Actually, I told her I couldn't afford it because I just put my money into the household.
Okay.
But you told me you...
Shh, don't speak to him. Speak to me. So that was the conversation. He said, I'm not leaving right now. And what did you say to him?
I told him he needs to be out of my house within that Friday. He sits around bragging that he got so many women to take care of him. So I said, call one of them up, tell them to back their car up in here and get your things up out of my house.
And he said what?
He said, I'm not going nowhere. I'm a legal resident. I'm not going nowhere. You have to get me out legally.
Okay.
So the next day I went and filed for a restraining order.
Well, Ms. Henderson, that's a violation of really what the restraining order is supposed to be about, madam. A restraining order is not something that you use instead of housing court. You had a discussion, you had an argument, you said get out and leave, and he said I'm not leaving. And you said no, you're going to leave, and he said get me out a legal way, and you said what's the best legal way for me to get out? I'll just go and tell somebody he threatened me. And you fill out a paper and you lie, because so far I haven't heard anything about a threat. And a judge looks at it and issues a restraining order. That's an abuse of what a restraining order is supposed to be. I'm here to tell you that. You can't use it in place of housing court that may take a little more time. So I'm sure you knew housing court would take a little more time, so you say restraining order, that takes a flash, and he's out. So then he's annoyed, because you get this restraining order and you lied to the judge when you got it.
No.
Yeah, sure you did. You had to have written something down that wasn't true.
When he threatened to put a hit out on me.
That was before.
I had the police come out for a report.
That was before. You were not annoyed about that. You were annoyed because he was bragging about other women and your son, and you wanted him out of the house. Come on, Miss Henderson. So you got the restraining order, and then what did you do?
I had Mr. Smith served.
And then what happened?
And 2 hours and 15 minutes later, he came to the house and kicked the door in and threw the restraining order back in the house.
You have a copy of the papers that you used to get the restraining order? Can I see the checks that you wrote for any of the bills in the apartment, Mr.
Yes,
Smith,
ma'am.
please? How much money did he give you towards rent every month?
$100, sometime $97.
Did he pay the cable bill?
Sometime.
Well, he paid in September, he paid in August, he paid in May.
We split everything in the household.
So he paid his way. So he wasn't just coming to visit on weekends, right?
Right.
Well, that's not what you say in here, in your statement to the police. Sometimes I will allow him to stay a weekend or a few days because we were getting along, but then he won't leave. Well, that's not true.
Right. Mr. Smith got evicted and asked me to come help him when he got evicted out of his place in Cutting. Our agreement was he was supposed to stay so long to save up enough money so he can get his own place.
Well, that's not months and months where he's paying half the rent, paying half the bills, cutting everything in half. So he is a tenant there.
Right.
Okay. All right, Mr. Smith.
Yes.
I want you to tell me, sir, what items do you claim that Miss Henderson has that belong to you?
Everything on my list that I have here.
Well, let me take a look at the list.
Okay. It's quite a bit. You might want to take a recess.
Show this to her, would you please, Bert?
No, I have my list, Your Honor. And this is the list that we had in November 22nd when he was incarcerated, and he gave it to me.
Who wrote that list?
He did.
Oh, then let me see that
and
list.
he got a different total from what he has on there.
Oh, fine. Then let me take a look. And the check, and what you've crossed out is...
The things that I gave to Larry in November.
So you still have the other things?
Because those are the things that he gave to me by him bringing it into the household, which is a gift to me.
No, it's not a gift. None of these things are gifts. I want you to listen to me. None of these things are gifts. Everything on this list that he prepared, so I won't look at this list. This is the list he prepared. You make sure are boxed up because he's going to send somebody to get them. Do you understand?
Yes.
No fooling around. Listen to
Okay.
me. If you're frightened enough of somebody to seek the court's assistance in getting a restraining order against them, You want everything that you have that might cause them irritation out of the house. You didn't have these things before he moved back. Now you're going to give them back to him, and the only contact you're going to have with him is over visitation or contact with a child that you share in common. So stop acting stupid.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Now let's talk about him busting down your door. He knocked down the door, Miss Henderson. Was that after you had him served with the protective order in October?
Yes.
Then he, I don't think that was the right thing to do, to knock down the door. It also wasn't the right thing to do to file a false police report, which you did. So you do not get your door fixed as a lesson not to abuse the court system. That's it. Good. Goodbye.
Yeah, this is case number 460 on the calendar in the matter of Candia versus Castro. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Candia, the defendant is your former boyfriend. You lived together for a period of time, and you have a child together.
Yes.
You don't live together anymore, and according to your complaint, he owes you for bail money. He had been arrested on a domestic violence complaint. I assume you were the victim in that domestic violence complaint.
Yes.
And in addition to that, you want him to pay his portion of the remainder of the lease on the apartment that you live in, despite the fact that you put him out of the house. You say he's responsible for it, he's on the lease, he should pay. When was he arrested for domestic violence?
On November 16th.
What were the circumstances of his arrest?
We went to a wedding. It was Julio and my daughter and myself.
How old's your daughter?
She's a year and a half.
Okay.
And Julio was drinking quite a bit. I asked him to slow down, but he chose not to. He got pretty intoxicated. He got to the point where he wasn't really coordinated in his walk, so we left, and he started to get belligerent in the car.
So you were driving and he was in the passenger seat?
I have a van, so he was in the back with the baby in the car seat.
What was he doing in the back?
He was yelling a lot of names at me, getting really
nasty.
Yes. And I was concerned about my daughter. She was awake and she saw him acting this way. And I told him to stop. He wouldn't, so I told him to get out of the car. I pulled over, told him to get out. First he refused, and then he got out. And then I realized that we were on a busy street. It was in San Francisco. And knowing that he was not walking right, I didn't want him to get hit by a car, so I came out of the car and I asked him to be respectful to me, and I would, drive him home and stuff like that. And he kept arguing with me, and it turned violent at that point.
What do you mean it turned violent? What happened?
Well, he started to urinate on a tree. And
on a busy street in San Francisco?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds charming.
And I guess he thought it was funny. He started to urinate on my shoe.
Well, he thought it was funny again. Yeah.
He started to urinate on my shoe, and I kind of pushed him away. But I guess he thought I was attacking him, and he just started basically hitting me.
And somebody called the police?
Those three ladies in a car were honking the horn at him to stop.
And they must have called the police?
Mm-hmm.
And they came and they arrested you. Is that right, sir?
Yes.
Perfect. Exactly what should have happened, right?
Yes.
You don't think anything else should have happened, right?
No.
You were drunk. You were abusive. You were urinating in public. You were hitting her, pushing her. So you should have been arrested, right?
Yes, Your Honor, but may I?
Sure. I want to hear you.
We have a commitment. We make a commitment to each other. That,
no, you didn't. What kind of commitment do you have?
Well, if I drink, she drives, and if she...
Oh, I thought you were talking about a marriage commitment,
No,
sir.
no.
Oh, no. You have a commitment that if you drink, she drives. And if she drinks, you drive.
I drive, right.
Good. So you have an arrangement, not a commitment. A commitment is something that two people usually have together when they start a family, when they make a baby. They go to a minister, they go to a rabbi, they go to a priest, they go to a clerk, they get married. You do. You know what I'm talking about.
So an arrangement.
You had an arrangement.
Right.
The arrangement was when you drink, she drives you home. So I'm listening. I'm waiting. Let me hear you.
We had similar circumstances when she drinks. She gets
I'm not
violent.
interested in similar circumstances.
Okay.
Did she ever urinate on your foot?
She did worse than that, Your Honor.
I don't want to know.
But I'm not
that.
here for that, right?
I want you to tell me what happened that day
Okay.
that in any way minimizes your fault, your culpability.
Well, I don't feel that I should pay all the money to her.
Very
we went
few
to a
people
wedding.
do.
She started hitting me, and she did this, pulled me out of the car. I wasn't doing anything back there.
I believe she pulled you out of the car. I believe she did. Listen, just because she's very soft-spoken, I don't necessarily buy into that. You understand that, don't you? Huh?
Yes.
I believe that you grabbed him, pulled him out of the car. And that's why he got out. And you have no right to open up your big fresh mouth in front of a baby.
I wasn't doing that, Your Honor.
Well, why would you think, sir, that she would pull you out of the
She
car?
thought I was on the phone talking to my ex-girlfriend. That's what she pulled
In the back of the car?
In the van, right.
Were you on the phone?
No. I don't even know my ex-girlfriend's phone number.
Was that true that he was on the phone? Look at me.
He was talking to his son on the phone.
You know anything about a phone call to his ex-girlfriend? Look at me. Right here.
I heard him mention her name, but I asked him.
You did. When did you hear him mention her name?
During the conversation with his son.
With his son?
Yeah.
Did that make you angry? Look.
That's what
Yep. Did that make you angry?
Yes, I questioned him about it.
Okay. Very good. You see what happens, how the worm turns? We get some information? Good. Now, you questioned him about it. We don't question about it. You got angry.
I did question him about it.
And what did he say to you when you questioned him about it?
Nothing. He really didn't have any answer for me. He just kind of looked cross-eyed to me.
Go ahead.
I'm not a violent person. I'm not somebody that's going to drink. I get happy, if anything. And I feel like she provoked me to do what I did. Whatever
You can't
I did.
provoke somebody.
Well, and I'm not saying that it was right.
Good. Why don't we just stop there? Nobody can provoke another human being into indulging themselves in violence. You can't do that. Because you're supposed to be able to control yourself. That's what makes us different
I wasn't
from
screaming
animals.
in front of my daughter or anything like that.
That's what
After the
makes us-
phone call is when she started.
My mouth is moving. Mr. Castro, human beings control themselves. Animals can't control themselves. And if you drink to a point where you can't control yourself and you just act out the way you feel, you have to be responsible for that. So 3 ladies in a car were so concerned about what they saw that they called the police and you were arrested. And that was the bail. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why is he responsible for the bail?
I picked him up. I asked him when we were walking across the street to the bailiff's office. I told him how important I needed that money back.
And what did he say?
He told me he promised he would pay me back every single penny.
Is that right?
I don't remember saying that, Your Honor. I started paying her because there wasn't enough money for the bail, and she told me she needed some money, so I said, okay, I'll give you. So I gave her $500 and
Afterwards, sir.
Afterwards.
Don't play with me. After she posted the bail, you started to pay her back.
Yes.
Not on your way over to get the bail, afterwards. And how much did you pay her back?
$500.
That's what she says. Now, how long were you in jail, sir?
16 hours, something like that.
Okay, so not long. So
No.
you got out on the 17th. When you got out, where did you go?
We went back to the house.
Is that right?
Yes.
When did you leave the house?
10 days later, because it was just
Tell me
lot
what
of
happened.
arguing and fightings and.
Tell me what happened 10 days later.
Well, from the time I got out of jail, maybe the following day, she just, and I understand, she felt like she didn't want me around, and we just kept arguing every day. You see, I had a 14-year-old, and it was arguing all day in front of the kids, calling each other names, and just, so.
So you decided to leave?
I decided to leave. I thought it was the best thing for both of us.
Probably true.
For the kids.
Are you still living there?
Yes.
Good. Why do you think he should pay for the balance of the lease?
Because he chose to leave and he's...
No. You didn't want him to stay. And it was dangerous for him to stay. You have a 14-year-old and an infant? Why should they be around constant bickering and quarreling?
True, Your Honor, but, he signed a lease that, he should at least fulfill his lease.
Well, where'd you expect him to live? You can't pay rent at your house and someplace else.
He doesn't pay anything at his son. I don't see why he cannot pay the remainder of the lease.
You should take him to court for child support. He should pay child support.
That's not true, Your Honor. I still pay my son for living there. I don't live there for free.
No. I'm not talking. Where you're living now, you pay your son. I'm talking about child support for your baby, sir.
I'm taking care of my baby.
You mean the baby lives with you?
No, I'm helping her with the baby.
What do you mean you're helping her? Tell me.
Giving her money.
How much? It's not an answer.
500.
500 a what?
A month.
When was the last time you gave her $500?
December. Well, I paid the rent that month.
In December?
Half of the rent, yes.
How much was half of the rent?
$675.
Did he pay half of the December's rent?
Yes, he did.
Okay, what about January?
No.
Why not?
Because we were coming to court.
You have to support your child.
Yes, I do. I know.
She shouldn't have to take you to court to get you to do that. You should do that by yourself. But you have to do that regularly, every week or every 2 weeks or every month.
I never said that I wasn't going to pay child support or I wasn't going to help my daughter.
You have to do it.
I know. I never.
A month went by. So far, I didn't see any money. Where was the money for last month?
I haven't given it to her yet.
Why not?
Well, I was waiting for the court.
What do you mean you were waiting? Child has to eat, right?
Well, she eats all the time. I still go over there and.
Mr. Castro,
I still
Mr.
go
Castro,
to Safeway and get
what
her
you're supposed
food
to do is take care of your responsibilities. Do you understand?
I think I do take care.
Well, you didn't. A, you didn't take care of your bail. You paid $500, and the bail, according to the plaintiff, was $3,500, leaving a balance of $3,000. Is that right?
Yes.
Let me see the paperwork. So that's not taking care of your responsibility. It's your bail. You acted badly. You failed to control yourself. It's not her bail, it's yours. And you said you would pay her back. And you did give her $500, but then you stopped. I want to know why you stopped. And you have no answer for that? Is this the first time you were arrested for domestic violence, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
First time you were arrested?
No.
When was the last time you were arrested?
1991.
Were you ever incarcerated?
No.
What happened with this case?
He was dismissed. I was supposed to go to court the following Wednesday, and when I showed up for court, they said that the case was dismissed.
Okay. $3,000 he owes you. I don't think he's responsible for the rest of the rent. I think, however, he is responsible for child support. You live there with your 2 children? You have 2 children?
Yes.
Do you get child support for your 14-year-old son?
No.
Why not?
His father's deceased.
So does he get Social Security?
No. He's been deceased since I was 7 months pregnant, so I was very young. I did not do anything about it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
And later today,
She gave up her business to come and volunteer with yours for nothing? She had her own business. You mean to tell me she gave it up? She wasn't in love with you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Rita Candia says during a night out, ex-boyfriend Julio Castro became drunk and belligerent.
You have to start to pay some child support, Mr. Castro.
I don't have a problem with that, Your Honor.
Very good. How much are you going to pay her?
We talked about between $500 and $600.
When was the last time you talked about it?
Maybe about a month ago, 3 weeks ago.
How much money did he give you last month?
Nothing.
Is that right, Mr.
He just gave me maybe diapers.
Right.
Mr. Castro, the first thing I want you to do when you get home is write her out a check. Write her out a check for $500. Because along with certain pleasures that you get from children, you also have responsibilities. So
I don't have a problem with that.
Then start paying. Do you understand?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I didn't feel like it was all my fault.
Kenneth Kip Panett claims former friend Stacy Schwartz took his car without permission and damaged it. Kenneth says Stacy not only ruined the transmission and clutch, but she also popped one of his tires.
Mr. Panett, you were at a party with the defendant. I assume she was a friend of yours, and it is your claim that she took your car without permission and wrecked it.
She didn't wreck it. She hit a curb and blew out a tire, and the transmission went out.
And Ms. Schwartz says that she had an unfortunate accident and that she might clearly be responsible for replacing a tire, but certainly not the transmission, since she had your permission and this accident was clearly not her fault.
Well, she did not have my permission.
Good. So let's go back. When was this party that you had?
A couple of months ago. It was a Friday night. It was at my house, and
Listen, Mr. Panett, how old are you, sir?
23.
What do you do for a living?
I am a market analyst.
Ever been to court before, sir?
No, except for traffic tickets and...
Well, that's court. So, if you're a plaintiff and you have a claim, first thing you figure out is what date.
Yes, Your Honor.
Because the questions get harder after that, Mr. Panett. So, a couple of months ago on a Friday night isn't a date.
I believe the date was December 14th, Your Honor.
That's a date. Now, it was on December 14th, 2006. Where were you?
At my house.
Who else was there?
I don't know the exact names, but a bunch of my friends.
And what were you all doing?
Drinking, watching TV, listening to music.
Great. Having a good time. Being responsible.
Yes.
What happened next?
Well, I didn't keep track of everybody around that night. I went to bed maybe around 1 or 2, and the next morning, Stacy called me and said that my car was broken down. I said, you know, how could that be? It should be in front of my house. And she said she was in Sunrise, which is about 20 miles away.
Where do you live?
Downtown Sacramento.
Go ahead.
She said it was broken down. She explained to me that she had taken my car the night before and that it had broken down the night before and that she had spent the night and was calling me in the morning. And I was...
Spent the night where?
At one of her friend's house, I assume.
Okay.
And I explained to her that she had better get my car back to me.
What kind of car do you have?
It's a Nissan Sentra.
Year?
1997. And she said she would. We exchanged words. I was a little upset, and then I fell back asleep. I didn't get my car back until the next day. She had it towed back to my house. At first, she hadn't even told me that a tire had blown out. I did see that for myself when it came to my house. Then she explained that to me. I had not given her permission to drive the car, so I was very upset.
Okay. Don't repeat anything.
Okay.
I have other things to do. Are you finished?
She had told me that she would pay for all damages. She was very apologetic at first, and I had it diagnosed, and she refused to pay it. She says she's not responsible for that.
You had it diagnosed. What was the bill?
It was $1,500, not $1,593.83. I'd originally said $1,600. It's I'd rounded when I looked at the receipt. It's actually $6.17 less than that.
Mr. Panett, how did you pay for this?
My father loaned me the money to pay for it, actually.
Did you pay for it in check or cash, sir?
I believe my father used his credit card to pay for it, and I had to pay my father back.
What's your father's name?
John Panett.
His phone number?
It's in my cell phone. I'm sorry.
Fred, would you please get his cell phone so that we can get the father's number, please? Thank you. And he's going to verify that he paid this bill, sir?
Yes,
when I
he
call
would.
him on the phone? Good. We're going to do that in a minute.
Okay.
Now, I'll hear you, Miss Swartz.
On December 14th, I was hanging out at Kip's house, and I asked him if I could borrow his car to go over to Jessica's house.
Where does Jessica live?
A few blocks from his house.
And he said?
He said yes, he let me borrow it.
Good. So you understand, Miss Swartz,
That's a different place than she was. Excuse me, Your Honor.
You do understand, madam, that you did have limited authority to take his car to go to Jessica's house, which is a few blocks away. You understand that?
Yes. Yeah.
Now tell me what happened.
I drove over to Jessica's house and told her that I was using Kip's car, and she called me at 5 o'clock in the morning and woke me up.
At Jessica's house?
Yes. And told me she was drunk and stranded in Sunrise, so I didn't even think to call Kip and ask permission because he let me borrow his car. He knew I wasn't...
No, my dear.
He knew I wasn't going to bring it back until the morning, so I...
Darling!
Yes.
You get it now? You look as if you're smart enough to get where I'm going.
Yes, ma'am.
You went to pick up your friend in Sunrise. And how far is Sunrise from Jessica's house?
Approximately 20 miles.
20?
Miles.
Miles, not blocks. Miles. And it was coming back with her, this drunken friend of yours, that you had the accident.
Yes.
Now tell me about the accident.
I was just driving and I was coasting, so I was in neutral, and then I tried to put it into gear and it would not go into gear, and I went to park immediately and I hit the curb and popped the tire. That was probably about 5:30, 6 o'clock.
You must have hit the curb very hard.
Well, yes, it was hard enough to pop the tire, and I immediately changed the tire, and since it was about 5:30 in the morning, my friend that I picked up just walked to her house because we were about a block away, and I slept in the car and called Kip about 9 o'clock in the morning to tell him that I was going to get his car towed back to him.
Let us assume that I believe you, that Mr. Panett said that you could borrow his car to go to Jessica's house, which is a few blocks away, to stay over. When you exceeded his permission by going 20 miles away the next day, You no longer had his permission. Do you understand that?
But he knew I was going to have it till the morning.
Don't tell me what he knew. He gave you permission, according to you, to drive it a few blocks. A few blocks is not 20 miles.
I have my witness here that saw him give me permission.
I just said, don't you have your listening ears on? I said, if I believe you, he gave you permission to take it a few blocks away. Once you took it 20 miles away, you no longer had permission.
Your Honor, he lets me borrow the car all the time.
That's not
Gee,
true.
just a second. Where do you think you are?
Right here.
Where is here?
In this witness chair.
And until you stand up there, what are you supposed to do?
Listen to you.
Right. Once you exceeded the scope of the permission, you no longer had permission. That's the law. Do you understand it?
Yes.
So all I have to do is deal with the issue of damages. And for that, you're going to give me John's cell phone.
Yes, ma'am. Just let me power it up.
Power it up. John Panette, this is Judge Judy Sheindlin. How are you? I'm very well, thank you. Do you have a moment for just a couple of quick questions for me? I'm here, as you know, trying a case involving your son and this young woman who took his car without permission. Are you familiar with that? Okay. Did he ever ask you for any money to help him repair this car? When was that? 3 months ago. Do you remember how much it cost you, sir? Approximately. And did you use your credit card? Did he pay you back that money? I know, I have children. Did he tell you how it happened? That he needed a new transmission? Was he driving the car? Okay. Very good. And you used a credit card? Okay, great. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you taking the time. Bye-bye now. What a nice father you have, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And as a matter of fact, your father does remember helping you out and paying for this transmission a few months ago.
That's correct.
Do you know what he doesn't remember?
What?
He doesn't remember you paying him back.
Well, I owe him money pretty much all the time, and I am always paying him. So I'm in the process
that he
of
doesn't
paying him.
remember. I mean, he does remember laying this money out for you, but he doesn't remember the fact that you paid him.
I have not fully paid him back, Your Honor. I apologize.
Well, how much have you paid him, sir?
Well, I owe him a total of quite a bit more than that. So I guess if you got down to that bill, I haven't paid him any because I'm paying him for things that I owe him.
Well, you have no objection to making the check payable to your father, do you?
No, not at all.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,593.83 to be made payable to John Panette. Thank you very much. That's all.
Desiree Loire claims ex-boyfriend Anthony Tatum owes for unpaid rent from their shared apartment. Desiree also says Anthony slashed her comforter and put a hole in the wall.
I have a feeling it's advice time. Miss Loire, this used to be your boyfriend.
Yes.
And you also shared an apartment with him.
Yes.
You claim he owes you a whole bunch of money, dating back to 2005. You do know we're in 2007 now.
Yes, I do.
Mr. Tatum says he owes you nothing.
Yes, ma'am.
Nice looking couple. How old are you?
21.
And you?
22.
And you moved in together when you were 19 and you were 20.
Correct.
Old enough to sign a contract?
Yes.
Definitely.
So you signed a lease together?
Multiple.
Multiple leases together?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not talking about all the leases you signed together. I'm talking about the last one after you moved out, because that's what we're talking about.
Yes.
Okay. And it is the plaintiff's claim that you moved out, you owed her rent, you damaged some of her property, and you loaned him money in 2005 for some car insurance. That you don't remember. Do you work?
Yes, I do.
What kind of work do you do?
I work at a Japanese restaurant as a bartender.
And you?
I'm a student.
How do you support yourself?
Currently, my parents do, ma'am.
Have you ever supported yourself?
For the past 3 years, yes.
So you just went back to school?
Yes, ma'am.
What were you doing for the last 3 years?
I was selling cars.
Did you make a living at it?
Very much so.
Why did you decide to go back to school?
I made a life-changing mistake of driving under the influence and lost my license.
That's a reason.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you injure anybody?
No, ma'am.
How long is your license suspended for?
It's no longer suspended. I just can't be picked up by the insurance of a dealership. Therefore, I'm back in school.
Gotcha. Okay. That was life-changing.
Very much. Learned a life lesson.
So I'm going to give you both another one. Don't ever move in with somebody and sign a lease together. Single people who want to try living together should always get an apartment that each of them can afford separately. Isn't that a smart idea?
Absolutely.
So that if it doesn't work out, somebody says, this is my apartment, that was our agreement, you leave, I can pay the rent all by myself. Of course, I understand that by saying this, I will probably lose 40% of the cases that I try each year, but I'm willing to make that sacrifice for the purpose of the common good. Right?
You will not lose a single case.
You know, he says that because nobody's going to listen to me. But if they did listen, there's a certain wisdom in what I say.
Yes, it is.
That way, two people wouldn't be homeless, two people wouldn't have their credit in the toilet, two people would not have to go back to mama or whatever. You would be able to separate and say, it didn't work out. So you signed this lease together when?
In September of 2005.
And when did you move out, sir?
October 30th of 2005.
Are you still living in the apartment?
No, I'm not.
When did you move out?
February of 2006.
So you only stayed there for a couple of months?
I was there for 6 months.
November, December, January. You stayed till the end of February?
September to the end of February.
I'm not talking about September. He left in October. Did you pay October's rent?
Yes, ma'am.
No, he did not.
Well, I don't know that. How do I know that? 2 years ago. Let's talk about November, December, and January. 3 months that you lived there, that he lived with you there for those 3 months.
Nobody. I lived by myself. He refused to sign off the lease, so I was unable to.
You say there was somebody else living in the apartment?
Yes, ma'am. Her friend Tracy, who is also my friend, and her witness's friend moved in at the beginning of November.
How do you know that, sir?
Because I went over there and she was living there.
You went over there when?
To get the rest of my stuff at the beginning of November.
How do you know she was living there?
Because my friend was her boyfriend at the time and he was also going over there.
That's completely untrue.
Did she stay there?
She stayed there occasionally. If we would.
How occasionally?
A couple nights a week. If we went out, she'd stay over. But no, she did not pay rent. None of her things were there.
Well, you should have. How to pay rent? How many bedrooms in this apartment?
1.
Where did she sleep when she stayed over?
In my bed.
So?
Well, I don't think someone who stays 2 nights a week should have to pay rent.
Why not?
I guess.
Was it your agreement with him to move out?
I asked him to move out, yes, because
then
he
you
was
pay the rent.
not paying rent.
Then you pay the rent.
Well, he should have signed off the lease, which he refused to.
And what did you do?
I couldn't do anything. He wouldn't sign off the lease. He kept threatening to come back and get the copies of the keys so he could come in and...
Madam, where were you the last 2 years?
The last 2 years, I've had my own apartment and house, and I've working and going to school.
I mean, but where were you in the last 2 years? If you moved out in February of 2006, now we're talking about a year ago.
Yes.
Where were you in this last year?
I was trying to collect money from him, but...
But he weren't collecting. He didn't give you any money.
Exactly, I couldn't.
Well, then why didn't you sue him in March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December? Why?
I was trying to be understanding of his situation with his car and everything like that, and he couldn't hold a job, so there's no way that he could give me any money.
What made you stop being understanding?
Well, because I'm just tired. It's ridiculous.
You lived in the apartment with sometimes Tracy? You pay the rent. What else?
He damaged my property, my couch, and stabbed my comforter.
Forget the comforter. I'm not interested in the 2-year-old comforter. How did he damage your couch?
He poured beer and dip spit all over it.
When?
On November 21st.
That's not true, ma'am.
You have a witness to that?
I do.
Go ahead.
On the day of November 21st, Desiree called me crying. I got over there. There was a gigantic hole in the wall when I walked in. The entire living room was trash, stuff everywhere, food thrown around.
Where was he?
He was nowhere to be found.
Well, so you didn't see him do anything?
He was there that morning.
He was there that morning.
Just a second. You didn't see him do anything?
No, I didn't see him do anything, but the people that had stayed the night prior to that had seen him come over in the morning.
Goodbye. Thank you. You have that Mr. Tatum was the cause of any damage to your property.
Well, because he called me screaming after he did it.
What did he say?
I can't believe you had those guys stay the night.
What guys is he talking about?
We had been drinking at my apartment. I had friends stay the night.
How many friends?
2. They had slept on the couch. And that's when he came over that morning to get his things.
Yes.
And he freaked out.
How do you know that?
Well, because they told me they were there. And then he came in with a tire iron and hit the wall.
What?
And poured everything on my couch.
You have absolutely no proof that he did any of that.
I
If
took
you have
pictures-
2 friends that you allowed to sleep at your house after they were drinking who witnessed him do it.
They didn't witness him do it. They witnessed him come in and make a scene, and then they left, and then he came back after that. He told me. I talked to him on the phone afterwards.
Did you ever acknowledge to her
No,
that
ma'am.
you destroyed her property?
No, ma'am.
Time to move on. Time to move on and get over it. Do you understand?
Yes.
This is a court, not nonsense. Case is dismissed. That's all. Bye-bye.
Natalie Holtz claims ex-fiancé Thomas Parrish owes for breaking their lease and for harassing her over the phone. Thomas claims he moved out because of Natalie's constant nagging.
Ms. Holtz, it is your claim that Mr. Parrish, who was a boyfriend of yours for a period of time, owes you some money for rent and also for harassing you. Mr. Parrish says that you're actually the one who's bothering him, that he contributed to the rent while he was living at the apartment with you and your children. But when he moved out of the apartment after a disagreement, he stopped paying rent. He's not on the lease. He feels no obligation to pay rent when he's not living there. Okay. When did you move into the apartment with Mr. Parrish?
After we got engaged December of '05.
Did he give you a ring?
Yes, he did. I have it with me.
Okay.
And I even went with my mom and bought a wedding dress, and I bought my daughter's dresses. We were going to have a ceremony on the beach. And
when
then,
did you move in together?
Mid-February of '06. And he went with me to the leasing office. When we went to fill out the forms for the application fee, which was $150, and to transfer within the same complex to a 2-bedroom, that was $500.
So you had a 1-bedroom apartment with your 2 children?
Correct.
Where were you living, sir?
I was renting a house in Chesapeake.
With his mother.
About 35 minutes from where she was living.
Okay, so you weren't living together in the 1-bedroom apartment?
No.
No.
I'm looking at him.
Sorry.
You moved into the 2-bedroom apartment in February of 2006, and the lease was in your name only.
Correct, but we had discussed, we had an agreement that we would rent the 2-bedroom together for 1 year to save up money to buy a house for after we got married.
Good.
And he paid half the rent for 10 months.
Right, I got you. While he lived there.
Right, correct.
And he paid the rent faithfully, half of the rent, despite the fact that he's only one person out of 4 living in the apartment, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, but they were minors.
I don't care if they're minors or not. He's one person out of 4.
Correct.
Living in the apartment. You get child support for your 2 children?
I get for 1 child because he has them half of the month and I have them half the month.
So you get child support for 1 child?
Correct.
How much?
$400 a month.
Okay. And he paid half of the other expenses on the apartment for the 10 months that he was living there?
Yes, he did. He paid half the utilities.
Half of everything?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, what happened when he moved out?
He didn't give me any notice. He just...
So you must have had a disagreement.
We got into a fight.
About what?
I had asked him to do the dishes, and he was watching TV.
Just you put get a turn.
And I waited about 2 hours. He still hadn't done it. So I went ahead and did it. And I got upset with him. I said, thanks a lot for helping me out around the house. You know, you eat on the dishes too. And he said, well, I was going to do it. I didn't know there was a time limit. And he started yelling at me. My youngest daughter was home. He was yelling in front of her. So I'm like, well, I don't want you yelling around her. He said, well, then I won't. And he went and, where are you going? He's like, I'm moving out. He gave me no notice. I said, what do you mean? Are you going to a hotel room? And he's like, no, I'm moving out. I'm not coming back.
Ms. Holtz, there must have been some clue to you prior to that things weren't going well.
We had had a few disagreements, yes, about...
So things were not going well?
Correct.
Well, you don't want your children to be involved with that sort of hostile environment, do you?
No, but he had only yelled one other time in a year and a half. And
well,
it wasn't
fine. That's fine.
Day occurrence.
That's fine. You don't want it to get any worse, do you? You don't want your children in an environment that's not healthy.
No, that's why.
So that it would be a so that it would be a good idea that he left.
Yes.
I would agree with that.
But I felt he was obligated for the last 2 months of the rent.
Where are you living now?
I just moved to a smaller apartment that I could afford on my own.
Just a second. How much rent was this apartment that you moved into together?
$1,203 a month.
And how much was the rent in the apartment that you had been living in?
It was $988. the one bedroom, and my new rent is $895.
So the difference in rent was $200 a month between the one bedroom and the two bedroom.
Right, but if we wouldn't have gotten engaged, I wouldn't have gotten that apartment. I would have gotten something I could afford on my own, Your Honor.
I look at objective things. Objectively, you were paying $1,000 on one, and this is $1,200.
And I knew I couldn't afford it if I didn't have a roommate, or if we hadn't gotten engaged. I would have gotten a smaller apartment on my own.
Good.
And I also have bank checks for the transfer fee and the application fee, which he agreed to pay half of. And I also have harassment. I want like $1,000 for phone harassment. I have phone records of him calling.
You mean after, just a second, Ms. Holt, do you mean to tell me after he moved out, because he said he wanted it over?
Correct.
He started calling you? You didn't call him?
No.
Just a second, just listen to me. You just listen to me. You didn't call him?
No, Your Honor.
He called you?
Yes, and I have tape recording of it, calling me terrible names.
You never called me.
Just a second. Mr. Parrish.
Yes, ma'am.
When you left, sir, it is your claim that Miss Holtz called you.
Yes, ma'am.
What did she say when she called you?
She called me a lot of adjectives that I won't use here, and I left. The reason I left was more than just the dishes.
Go ahead, sir.
To back up and give you some background of just that day, I won't be long-winded. It was a Sunday morning. I had some work to do. I was going to do it early in the morning. Instead, I put that work off until the afternoon. While she laid in bed, I did the dishes, fed the kids, cleaned the kitchen, did 2 loads of laundry, put all that away, spruced the house up while she's still in bed, asked her if there's anything else I can do before I went and did my work. No, everything's fine. I went away and worked it took me about 3.5, 4 hours. I came back.
What kind of work did you do?
I'm a small contractor.
Go ahead.
It took about 3.5, 4 hours. I came back. The NFL football playoffs were on. I watched the second half of the first game. The next game was the Dallas game, which I'm a huge fan. She knows that. I sat down to watch that. In the meantime, she had gone in the kitchen and started going off about everything. I had left a Walmart receipt on the counter from where I bought some groceries the day before, which I bought my share and then some of the groceries for all 4 of us. She started griping about the receipt on the table. You know, why'd you leave this receipt here? You want money from me? I said, did I ever ask you for money? Is this why you left the receipt? She on and on and on. This goes on for over an hour.
It's not true, Your Honor.
Shh, don't interrupt him.
After the conclusion of that, she goes and stands in front of the television, or not directly in front of it, but right beside it, hand on her hip, and says, you've watched one football game, now I expect you're going to sit here and watch another one? And I looked at her and I said, yeah, I'm going to watch another one. You know, I'm a Dallas fan. I'm going to watch the game. And she said something, and that was it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. I got up. I had some shirts and some clothes in the apartment. She goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm leaving. I've had enough.
Your Honor, he never works on Sundays. He hates working on Sundays. He did not go to work
Your Honor,
day.
What difference does it make whether he
Because
went to
he's
work or
lying.
not?
It's showing that he lies. He's
I did go to work.
Ms. Holtz, if something doesn't make sense, it's usually not true. And what doesn't make sense to me is I listened to him only for a couple of minutes, and I've made a judgment, because I'm usually good at making judgments, that he's not a nut.
Thank you.
I don't.
You haven't heard this.
Oh, I don't think he's a nut. I think maybe he was stretched to the limit, but I don't think he's a nut. And I think when he left, he probably would have left you alone. But you started bugging him because you were angry, just as you are angry right now. You are so angry right now, you can't even contain yourself.
I'm just nervous, Your Honor.
You're angry. You're still angry.
I'm angry at what he called me, yes. He called me very vulgar and obscene things, and I don't deserve that.
I'm going to ask you again to answer my question and answer it honestly. After he left that day, who called who first?
He called me.
First?
Yes,
and
he called me 27 times.
Just a second. So what did he say, Miss Holtz, when he called you after he left?
He said that I only think about myself, that I'm a self-centered, and I can't repeat what he called me. And yes, I did call him once. I asked him for my key back.
Just a second. My question was, who called who first?
He called me first. I have the phone records.
You have a phone record that shows all your outgoing calls?
Yes, I do, but his
Great.
is first.
Great. Let me take a look at what you have. Put a mark next to where you called him.
I'll put a star where I called him. All the other check marks are him calling me.
Just go back to the beginning.
The beginning is where he left on the 6th.
What's your phone number, sir?
286.
At your mother's house?
That's my cell phone. That's the only.
At your cell phone?
That's the only phone I use. Yes, ma'am.
Well, on the 6th, madam, 286. is outgoing.
It says incoming.
Outgoing, outgoing, outgoing. Then you have a couple of incoming. But on the 6th, I want you to point to where I've checked this off, please, and let her look at it.
All the highlighted ones. Okay.
I'm not talking highlighted. Look at where I made the check marks.
That was in the afternoon. He was still home, or he was still. He hadn't moved out yet. That was in the afternoon.
Why would she call me?
The next day. It's the next day when he started harassing me.
Listen to me. What? Hey, give it back to me.
Incoming, 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 incoming. These are all incoming.
Miss Holmes, you don't want me to think you're a nut, do you?
No, ma'am.
On the 6th, according to you.
That night.
I'm speaking. You called him at a time when you said he wasn't out working, because you said he doesn't work on Sundays. So clearly, you called him at that cell phone number, 216, 252, and 252.
Yes, he went to the grocery store.
So what'd you call him 3 times for?
He called me, and I called him back on several occasions.
So he went to the grocery store for whom?
For all of us. We all had to eat.
So he was out on family business?
Yes, before we got in a fight. Yes, ma'am, he was.
After I finished working.
Just a second. Okay. Then the next phone call on the 7th of January was a phone call from you to him at 8:09 p.m. and he called you back at 8:29. You called him first. Then you called him at 9:10 p.m., 6:59 a.m., 7:30 a.m.
He wouldn't return my call to get my key back, Your Honor.
Please.
And I have the text messages right here of all the incoming text messages.
Okay, Miss Holmes, I'm
going
to listen to me, madam. You got to get over it. Get over it.
It's okay to call somebody the B word and the C word?
Get over it. Sticks and stones break your bones. Names will never hurt you. Did your mother ever teach you that? You have to get over it. It's finished. You may be angry. You may be angry that you devoted 10 months of your time to him. He may not have said nice things to you. I mean, you can tell.
I've had 24 calls since the 9th on here.
Listen to me. Listen to me. I'm looking at your phone records.
I don't have them.
You called him first.
To get my key back and my mailbox key back.
Change the lock. What? Go ahead.
I just want to clear up a couple of things. You've done a nice job of clearing up the harassment. First of all, I don't understand her suing me for ever how much she sued me for, $1,200, $1,300, whatever it is. I could understand if she was going to sue me for bigamy. I could understand that, because in that pretty little head there's about 12 personalities.
Mr. Parrish.
This is what I get on messages.
Mr. Parrish, listen to me. Not necessary, sir.
Okay, I just letting you know.
Let him show his true colors.
Not necessary.
Okay.
She may be stressed. She's a single mother.
She's a good mother.
She's a single mother. Takes care of the kids. Money, I'm sure, is tight. I'm sure it was much more comfortable when you were there.
I understand.
Much less stressful financially when you were there. You're not there anymore. A life she anticipated is over. But I don't think that you're responsible for any rent when you weren't living there. I think that you took care of more than your fair share of the bills when you lived there in a family that was really not yours. You left. The responsibility is hers. She was angry. And these phone records do not support harassment on your part, sir. I mean, common sense dictates that if you left, you would have been just as happy to be left alone. Period. But very hard when you are stressed to deal with that kind of change. I get it. But you're not entitled to any money, madam. The case is dismissed. That's
Your
all.
Honor.
That's all.
21-year-old Laura Termini is suing her ex-boyfriend, 23-year-old Justin Jordan, for punching out the windshield of her car and impound fees.
This was your boyfriend. You had an argument while you were driving in a car. You were the driver?
Yes, ma'am.
He was the passenger. During the course of the argument, he got very angry and he hit the windshield, or he hit a mirror in your car which broke the windshield. You want him to pay for that?
Yes, ma'am.
And I assume that after this incident, you were no longer boyfriend and girlfriend, but about a month later, you had to go to the airport. So you were stupid enough to ask him if he would drive you to the airport and he could keep your car and use it while you were away. So he took you to the airport. According to him, he parked it where he shouldn't have parked it. It got towed. And it cost you a whole bunch of money to get the car out of the towing facility. So far, is that about right, Mr. Jordan?
Yeah, that's correct.
No. Look at me. Look at me,
Yes.
smarty pants. Yes, Judge, that's correct.
Yes, it is. Correct. Correct.
All right. Mr. Jordan's defense is he broke the windshield in the car instead of breaking your face because that's how mad he was. So he hit something that couldn't really injure. Am I reading it right?
Yes, you are.
And the second part about taking the car and having it towed, he says, well, you should have come home from your vacation early and taken care of your problem, right?
Right, yes, ma'am.
Mr. Jordan, did you eat spinach as a child? Regularly?
Yeah.
Now, I want you to tell me when this incident was, Mr. Jordan, in the car.
Late August.
August of 2006.
August of 2006.
All right. Where were you coming from, sir?
We were coming from our apartment, and we were taking the cat to the vet, which was neglected, and it was dying, and I was very off. And that's the bottom line.
Whose cat was it?
It was hers.
What kind of cat was it?
It was a Savannah F2.
A Savannah F2.
Yeah.
What is that?
It just has some wild cat in it, so it's like half wild, half regular cat.
How long had you had the cat?
About 6 months.
And when you say she neglected the cat, Mr. Jordan, what do you mean she neglected the cat?
It means it didn't have its proper shots. It wasn't taken care of correctly. It was not fed the right food.
Okay. So you were angry with her that you were taking the cat to the vet.
Yeah, it was dying.
And what did you do?
Well, she was degrading me, putting me down, and
Well, what did she say to you, Mr. Jordan?
a bunch of stuff like worthless and just stuff like that, you know?
She called you worthless?
Yeah, stuff like that, yeah.
What else did she call you?
A bunch of profound words that I can't say on TV, but,
You mean
know.
profanity, not
Profanity,
profound.
yes.
So what did you do?
So I punched the windshield.
And who's responsible for that?
She is.
Because she made you angry.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you took her to the airport
Yes.
in her car, and then you took her car to work.
Yes.
Did you park it in a place where you shouldn't have parked the car?
No.
You mean the police made a mistake?
Yes.
Towing your car?
Yes.
Was it parked near a fire hydrant? Was
No, they say it was blocking a driveway.
blocking a driveway?
Yeah.
But there was no driveway.
No, there was a driveway, but it was not blocking a driveway.
You mean somebody could have squeezed through?
Definitely. No, it wasn't blocking a driveway.
You mean they just selected your car at random because you ate your
No.
spinach as a child?
No.
So what happened when you came out and found the car no longer there, Mr.
So it was
Jordan?
gone, and I went to Anaheim Police Department, and I couldn't get it out.
Well, when you went to the Anaheim Police Department, what were you told?
She had to come get it out.
And you said that she was on vacation.
Yes, I did.
Did you contact her?
Yes, I did.
Did you ask her to send you a letter of authorization so that you could get the car?
Yes, I did.
And did she send it?
No, she didn't.
Why not?
Because he said that he didn't have the money to pay it. So if I send it, he wouldn't pay it anyway.
Is that what you told her?
No.
What did you tell her?
I told her to come get it out.
Who was supposed to pay for it?
I told her I was going to pay for it.
Oh, good. So?
If she came home and got it out, but she remained in New York for another 5 days. That's
Well-
why that bill is so expensive.
Oh, the bill is so high, sir, because you parked in a driveway.
No, it was $160, and whatever she paid, that's her fault.
Tell me how much the impound fees were.
Together with the ticket, $435.
And the windshield?
It is $1,097.
Did you have the car fixed?
No, I haven't. I don't have the money to have it fixed.
Okay. Anything else you want to say to me, Mr. Jordan, before I let you go on your way, sir?
No.
Wasn't this a pleasant experience? Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,530.
Juliet Basasio is suing her ex-boyfriend, Omar Pierce, for unpaid rent and a security deposit. Omar says Juliet is angry that he went back to his wife.
Ms. Basasio, this very unhappy gentleman who's standing next to you, Mr. Pierce, used to be your boyfriend.
Yes.
Even though he was married. And you have a child together.
Yes.
Mistake number 2. And it is your claim that the two of you leased an apartment for 6 months because you claim Mr. Pierce wanted to move out of your parents' home where the two of you were living with your baby and have a place of your own. You signed the 6 months lease. He didn't really hold up his end of the rent, which you had agreed to, and then he moved out, leaving you stuck with the lease. Mr. Pierce says that you couldn't rip him from the heart of his wife and 2 sons. And that he decided to go home, and that he paid rent while he lived there, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did I explain your position, sir?
No, I don't owe any of the money.
What?
I don't owe any money.
Oh, this is going to be harder than I thought. When did he live in your parents' house?
The first time he moved in was in May.
Of 2006?
Yes.
How old is your baby?
He's 2.5. He'll be 3 in October.
Is that your only child?
Yes.
Why would you have a baby with somebody who's married?
Because he lied and told me he wasn't married. He told me he had just separated and he was divorced from his wife 6 months prior to when I met him.
He said he was separated or divorced?
The same difference. He said...
No, it's not the same difference. Separated is not divorced.
At first, he didn't have a wife. I would have never went with him if he told me that he was married.
And when did he finally tell you he was married?
He never did. He never told me that he was married. I had to find out from his wife that he was married. And it was after I had my son.
Was he living with you?
No, he wasn't.
Why wasn't he living with you?
I don't know.
Did you ask him why we're not living together?
No.
Did you ask him why we're not married?
No, he knows that I wouldn't want to marry him. I told him, I don't want to get married. Why do I need to get married? If I live with somebody, why would I need to get married?
Well, why if you're fighting with somebody? You're right, you shouldn't marry somebody you're fighting with, right? You also shouldn't make a baby with them.
That was before I found out that he was married.
What difference does it make if he's married or not? If you don't want to get married and you're not getting along with him.
We were not fighting before that. Everything was fine before that. There was no fighting or nothing.
You mean everything was fine until you got pregnant?
Yes. Well, he was okay up until the month I had my baby.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a receiving clerk.
Where?
I don't want to say.
In what city?
In San Marcos.
How long have you been a shipping clerk for the company that you work for now?
Close to a year.
And before that, where did you work?
Oh, I didn't work.
Huh?
I didn't work. Oh, I did work, but in numerous places.
What kind of work does the plaintiff do?
I work in the emergency room.
What kind of work does the plaintiff do?
She works in a hospital, I guess.
What do you mean you guess?
Why I see her go there. I mean, yeah, she works in a hospital. Excuse me, I don't want to be...
Yeah, don't be a smart aleck, sir. You know, you're having trouble just keeping your head above water here. And what prompted you to decide to get an apartment with him? Because now you're living with your parents and your son, right? Everything is nice. The baby has some stability, live at home, so he's got grandparents, nice. Now you know he's married. And he says, let's get an apartment together.
He's the father of my child. I'm going to give him a chance. If I'm going to want him in my son's life, I'm going to give him that chance. He told me that he was in the process already of divorcing his wife. 2 weeks before we signed our lease, before we were going to move in together, he told me that his divorce was going to be final. That obviously
So you
was
signed
not
the
true.
lease. Can I see the lease, please?
Yes, you may.
November of 2006 is when you started. When did he move out?
In January of 2007.
So he lived there with you for 2 months, right?
Yes.
What?
We moved in October, and I gave her rent for October.
It says that the rent is due the first date of each month beginning November 2nd.
Thank you. It's November.
Your lease started November 2nd,
Yes.
2006. Why did you move out?
I went back with my wife and kids, went home.
You went back with your wife and kids. Well, what'd you expect her to do with this apartment?
Well, she told me before you even moved into the place that I can go back to my family, go back to break the lease and go back to my family.
Just a second. She what? Say it again to me,
She told
so
me-
I believe it.
She told me that I can, if it didn't work, I could break the lease. And
I go back to your wife.
Yes.
Those words never came out of a woman's mouth.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Not her mouth.
Thank you. Especially
Not
with
just
somebody with a kid.
Just a second. Don't look at me. Those words not only didn't come out of her mouth, they didn't come out of any woman's mouth in history. If it doesn't work out between us, you can break the lease and go back to your wife.
Yeah, because she knew how I felt about my wife and her.
What, are you crazy? Why did you sign this lease, Mr. Pierce?
Because I wanted it to be free. I thought it was going to work out between me and her.
Because what?
I wanted it to be free. I wanted, because we would have fun. I thought it would be, work out between me and Juliet.
So you wanted to have fun. You couldn't have fun in her parents' house.
We agreed to move out so we could be together.
You wanted to be free.
Yeah, well,
You wanted
for
to
many-
be able to drink and smoke and do what you wanted to do and have a good time. You couldn't do that at her parents' house. And her parents probably looked at you like I'm looking at you and saying, why? I raised this nice girl and she brings me home a bum. Why? What happened? Mr. Pierce, you have a responsibility to pay her for the remainder of the lease, your half. Do you want me to explain why to you, sir?
No.
No?
Well, because I don't owe her any money. When I stayed there, she said that it was okay, because because she knew I had to support my other kids.
You know, when I was a kid, my grandmother used to tell me that, you know, God gave you a heart, one day a soul, one day you got a brain, one day you got... He was absent. He was absent. You picked the wrong day to be absent, Mr. Pierce. Listen to what I'm saying to you, sir. You have 3 children. You made 3 children. You can't afford to have 3 children. You probably can't even afford to take care of yourself. So you have to find some other hobby other than having children. That's number 1. Number 2, sir, look over here. You signed a lease. That has meaning. Whether you pay taxes or not is not my issue. Signing this contract is my issue. Do you understand, sir?
Yes.
Signing this contract obligated her to pay this rent. Now, if they can't come after you because they can't find you, that is a problem. Do we understand each other, Mr. Pierce?
Yes, ma'am.
You understand me loud and clear now, Mr. Pierce?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. I'm glad now we understand each other, sir. So when you sign a lease for 6 months with the mother of your child and take her out of a home where she's living relatively comfortably, rent-free, and then you get an epiphany and want to be near your other baby's mother, that doesn't mean you are absolved from paying her for the rent. Do you understand, sir? If Uncle Sam can't find you, I can. Do we understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. The rent is $825. According to your complaint, he was supposed to pay $400. $400 times 4 equals $1,600. That's for the 4 months remaining on the lease after you moved out, sir. Do you understand?
Yes.
Goodbye. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Beverly Roscoe claims her husband's ex-wife, Deborah Roscoe, harasses her constantly. Deborah is accusing Beverly of harassing her.
Mrs. Roscoe, the defendant is your husband's former wife. This is
Right.
your husband, I assume?
Yes.
And these are your 2 stepsons?
Yes.
Your 2 sons?
Right.
And your 2 sons?
Right.
When were you divorced?
92.
And for how long did the boys live with their father?
They never have.
Never.
Until one of them was kidnapped.
My question to you is, during what times did the boys live with their father?
The youngest one has never lived with him. The oldest one went there for a Thanksgiving vacation and never came back.
What year?
98.
Who's the older? You went to live with your father in when, sir?
2006.
So you lived there for 8 years?
Yes.
Did you see your brother
No.
while you lived there?
No.
It is your claim, Miss Roscoe, that your husband's former wife, the first Mrs. Roscoe, I assume the first...
She's the second.
The second Mrs. Roscoe. You are the third Mrs. Roscoe.
I'm the 4th.
You're the 4th Mrs. Roscoe.
Yes.
He's got something...
You're the
Well,
elusive, but he has something.
No.
Has been harassing you.
Right. I need to clarify
Go ahead.
what they said. First of all, Sean did not live with Bob until 2006 because he moved into my house in 2004 because he had nowhere else to go.
Is that right? You were with your stepmother?
No, I stayed with friends mainly because of I did not.
I didn't ask you for any other reason. Your complaint is that she harasses you.
Yes.
You want her to stop. She says
Right.
she doesn't harass you, you harass her. You want to know who's harassed?
The kids.
Me.
That's true.
So, Mrs. Roscoe, the 4th Mrs. Roscoe, that would be you.
Yes.
You have 5 minutes to tell me how she's harassing you
Okay.
legally.
All right. It started in 2004 when Sean moved into my house. Bob did not live there. Sean did. He had nowhere else to go, so I let him stay with me. She found out how old I was, and it started from that point on. I have always been mistress, lot lizard. What else? All
Don't
kinds of
ask
stuff.
her.
Okay. I have emails. I have certified letters. She sent the same letter 3 times, 2 by certified mail, 1 regular mail, after she paid to get our address. This is the certified letter that she sent. And I have the email where she stated she would pay $50 to get our address again after she had contacted my ex-husband and his family members through Christmas and New Year's every year for 2 years.
I'm not interested in your ex-husband and his family. You're suing her.
Right, but she's trying to get our address. They
Listen
don't give
to
it,
me.
so she buys it. So
She
she
got your
sent the
address.
email she would pay
She
for
got
it.
your address. So
Right, but
let's go.
for
What
what
is the
purpose?
other harassment? Let's go. Go. You have 5 minutes
okay.
of moving.
All right, I'm trying. She says that
The kids are not allowed to talk to their dad yet. They have an address, they have email addresses, and a phone number where they can contact him.
I haven't heard anything yet, madam, that amounts to legal harassment.
Okay.
Keep going.
Threatening to have my kids taken away from me. I live in
Just a
every
second.
day.
Just a second. Show me where she threatened to have your children taken away from you.
All right. In here, you'll see several references to where she's talked to my in-laws, my ex-in-laws, and she's surprised that they allow me to keep the kids there. She has made contact with them and tried to...
So what? Who cares?
I mean, there's no reason for her to bring me into her and Bob's business. Those are their kids. It was his support.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Miss Roscoe. There's no reason for her to get involved with you and your children and your former in-laws or anybody else. That's not legally actionable. It's just bad behavior. I'm waiting for something legally actionable, like somebody calling you 150 times a day.
Well, we've had...
like somebody posting things about you on the internet, defamatory statements, like somebody parking themselves outside your home with a constant surveillance of your home and police reports to follow that up.
Okay.
Do you understand what I'm saying to
Yes,
you?
I
So
do.
far, I see annoying. So far, I don't see legal.
Okay. Here's where she states about my kids, give it time, I may not have them at all. This has been going on for years.
Miss Roscoe, just because you say it's been going on for years doesn't mean it's been going on for years.
Okay, well, I've highlighted the majority of the parts. Right here, teach your children well for as long as you have them. It's not so much...
Just a second.
Okay.
Have you ever told the truth? You lie almost as well as your boyfriend. You can't beat
That's
him. He's the best. But you come to a close second. Who wrote that?
That's her.
And then teach your children well for as long as you have them. Well, that's a good idea. Teach your children well for as long as you have them, because you won't have them forever. You could have gotten rid of me by having my son call, but that would have been too easy.
Her son was 21 years old and had known her number for years. He did not even live in my house. He lived with his girlfriend where he had a restraining order put on him.
Do you answer these messages?
I used to. I deleted that name so she wouldn't have it anymore.
So you answered her?
Sometimes, yeah, when I took all I could take. Yeah.
All
and
right,
I called the
good.
police.
Okay.
And
Keep going. Your 5 minutes are almost
okay.
up.
Every time Bob would send her an email about the interest on the child support that she got or anything, she would answer it to me.
So what?
Well, she has a history of harassing him and being mean and violent. This is a letter from her
Did you ever
own.
file a police report?
I tried.
What do you mean you tried? What does that mean, you tried?
Because they said it would be civil. They could not do anything criminally unless I could prove something civilly. So that's why.
No, that's not true. That's a lot of baloney. They could not do something criminally unless you could prove something civilly? It's ridiculous. All right, let's hear about her harassment of you.
Okay. That would probably be the better way to start.
Go ahead.
It began between 99 and 2000. She started contacting my youngest son in Washington over the internet, and when I finally seen Beverly Joe 99 come popping up a lot of times, I finally asked my son, I says, who is this Beverly Joe? Well, that's Dad's girlfriend. And I said, no, it can't be Dad's girlfriend, because all that's Dad's girlfriend. What's she want? She wants me to go to the airport, and she'll send me a ticket, and I can go to Ohio. I said, oh, no, you're not going to Ohio. I said, I lost one son that went there for Thanksgiving and was refused to be sent home. I said, you're not going. She continued to write, and he got to the point where he got belligerent with her. So then all of a sudden, she wasn't nice to him no more. He was going to be put into the mental institute, and that started things.
You complain that she's harassed you. You have 5 minutes to tell me how.
I have blocked her from her name from my addresses, my emails, my IMs. She now goes under my ex-husband's IMs. She posted my social security number over the internet January 29th of 2006.
Why did you do that?
During those messages that you have right there, the way she was carrying on about how she was going to come and sit in my driveway and how she was going to stay at my ex-in-laws and stuff until she could get to me the next day and stuff. Yes, I did, just to shut her up, and it worked.
So you posted her social security number?
I called the cops. They wouldn't do anything about it. So and it wasn't
You deserve
posted.
each other.
It wasn't posted.
Absolutely deserve
One
each
thing-
other. Listen to me. Sounds to me like you two women deserve each other.
No, she just needs to leave my sons and I alone.
Listen to me. Madam, you have choices in this life. If what you're going to do is make a mission out of making each other's lives miserable, because somebody's got to start the text message and somebody's got to finish it. Right now, there is absolutely no reason to have any contact with each other. You have grown children. If they want to see their father, they will contact him. If they want to speak to him, they will contact you. They're big boys. So these two women have absolutely no reason to have any contact with each other. Is that right?
That's true.
Right.
Ma'am, I've got some more
Listen to
evidence.
me. Well, get to it, because now you have 2 minutes.
I've got some recordings I'd like you to listen to.
I am absolutely going to listen to recordings if you have them.
How did you work this? These are just a couple of the messages that come over my telephone.
You know my name. You ain't called me back within 5 minutes. I'm going to go find your little boy. And by the time I'm done with him, he will need you. But he won't be leaving Ohio for a while because he'll be in the hospital.
That was him.
Yes, ma'am, that was me. Yes.
I would like to think that you're grown up enough to want to get some sort of help for your son, who you have no idea what has become in 7 years. As a matter of fact, it was he who pushed me, and I refused to have the cops take him. Nobody called the cops on him. He walked out in front of a cop car and almost got hit, and they were going to arrest him for the way he was yelling and carrying on, and I told them just to let him get his stuff and leave. Now, if you think you can grow up and act like a 50-year-old mother, you can call me back and I will explain to you what happened. If you want to sit there and listen to his little pouty story that's all full of, you go right ahead. But all you and Josh are doing is bob off to a point where the only person going to pay for you two sitting there acting like idiots is Sean. So if you think you can grow up and call me back, I'll be here for a
Nothing wrong with that message. Shut up. Listen to me. I didn't ask you for anything.
Okay. Wonderful mother that you portray yourself as. You would personally give it what's going on in your kid's life. But since you don't, that's fine. I will make sure he gets a ride back to Washington. You can either call me back and be mature, or I'll send him back via the Knox County Sheriff's Department. That's your choice.
Now, who's harassing who?
Just a sec. Shh. Quiet.
All I'm going to say is you better have made sure you got permission from his probation officer to take him out of the state, because she will know tomorrow that you did. You can either grow up and talk to me like a woman and quit calling Bob's cell phone like some tramp in heat, or I will file charges on you like they told me I could. And as for Sean, you're really teaching him a lot of responsibility to have him up and walk off of a job that he had for less than a month. Yeah, you're teaching him a lot, Deb.
Tired of him yet?
I haven't heard anything that's legally actionable, madam. Nothing.
No, it's just showing that who is calling who.
Listen to me. You text her. You write to her. She has. Listen.
Go ahead and write
she
that.
had evidently, Mrs. Roscoe. She had your son at some point living in her home. This one, and there was clearly some difficulty with him in the home. I don't plan on getting into what it was because, quite frankly, I don't care. It has absolutely nothing to do with this lawsuit. All I have to tell you is people behaving badly does not create a lawsuit. Just listen to me very carefully. Mr. Wonderful over here got married 4 times. You have a short attention span, Mr. Roscoe. In any event, what the 2 wives have done is they've made their lives miserable, at least currently, with calling and writing and texting and whatever. It's time to say enough. Because these 2, whether they're good kids, whether they're not good kids, whether they're difficult, whether they're problems, right now, how old are you?
22.
And you?
20.
All grown up. It takes 2 to make an argument. 2. Right now, you have no reason to have any communication with each other. Do you speak to your sons?
I haven't since September.
That's their prerogative, sir. If for some reason they don't want to talk to you, that's it. But it has nothing to do with her. It has nothing to do with their mother, because they're big boys. And if they wanted to talk to you, they would. So I don't see any reason for you to have any further contact with each other. Why don't you both consent to an order that prohibits any contact whatsoever, either by mail, by telephone, by text message, by any form of communication that we know of in modern electronics?
I had reported her to her work to get her
Your
to
case
quit.
is dismissed, madam. You have no case. I mean, I ask you a question, you go back into history. I asked you, are you prepared to enter into an order that says, I will have no contact with the second Mrs. Roscoe, either in person, by mail, by telephone, telegraph, pigeon, or whatever?
I've tried to obtain
Are you
one.
prepared to enter into such an order?
You bet you, ma'am.
Very good. I'll have somebody prepare it back there. Thank you very much. That's all.
56-year-old Candace Harris is suing her ex-boyfriend, 32-year-old Frank Boswell, for an unpaid loan and for trading in a Camaro that didn't belong to him. Candace claims Frank is a scammer.
Ms. Harris, you met the defendant online. Is that how you met him?
Correct, Your Honor.
And according to what I read, you began a relationship with him, and at some point, according to you, you let him borrow a car that you had that you weren't using.
Correct.
And he had the car for many months. The relationship soured. You went to get the car and found out that Mr. Boswell had forged your name to the title of the car and either sold or traded it in for something else.
That's correct.
You also claim that you loaned him some money before this in 2005, and I'm telling you right now, Ms. Harris, I'm not entertaining that. Because according to what you said in your complaint, you sent him this money with the understanding that when he got back on his feet, he would pay you back.
Correct.
That's what you said. Mr. Boswell is going to tell me he never got back on his feet. That's not a loan. It has to be objective, not subjective. Mr. Boswell will tell some people he's on his feet and tell other people that he's not on his feet. You have children, sir?
Yes, I do.
How many?
One.
That child live with you?
No.
You pay child support?
Yes.
As much as the mother of that child wants?
No.
Right. Because you're not really on your feet. See what I mean? Things are very predictable in this life. I could have written this script before I even asked him a question. Now, when did you let Mr. Boswell borrow your car?
He came to see me on September 29th in 2005. It was at my house for many months being unused.
So you let Mr. Boswell borrow it. What was the arrangement?
The arrangement was that he would use my car. He was trying to get his career started in music, rap business, and it would be a nice car for him to drive with a little bit more prestige maybe than what the vans he had. And we never discussed when I would get it back. However, in March...
After he got on his feet.
Yes. In March, I discovered there was other women involved in his life besides me who were also helping him out financially till he got on his feet.
I could have also told you that.
Yes, ma'am. And it escalated to the point where more and more women started showing up. On June 20th was when he sold the car. I have the documents here that show
Now,
it was...
Mr. Boswell, how much did you sell the car for, sir?
I actually didn't sell the car. I traded the car.
How much did they give you for it?
They just traded me another car straight across.
Really?
Yeah,
But you forged her name to the title.
I did that.
You can't do that, Mr. Boswell.
Why would someone give me a car and give me the title if they loaned it to me?
Who paid for the insurance?
She did.
And whose name was the insurance in?
Isn't it hers?
You got my message? It's her car. If she meant to pass title to you, she would have signed the title over to you, and then you would have insured the car in your name.
Then why,
Now!
Then why did she give me the title in
Are
the
you
first place?
asking me a question, smarty pants?
Yes,
Don't you
I am.
ask me a question, sir. I ask the questions, you give the answers. I want to tell you, you may find a lot of women that find you attractive. I am not one of them.
No. I can dig that.
I'm glad you can. What kind of car do you have now?
1990 Lexus LS400.
How many miles did it have on it when you took
276.
it? 276
Yes.
miles? Is that your car?
No,
ma'am.
her car.
My car
her car was a Camaro.
It had 126,000 miles. It's a 95 Camaro.
When I traded it, it had 143,000 miles on it.
What's the blue book value of your car, madam?
It is, Your Honor. It's $4,025.
Is that in good, fair?
That's the medium. It's in the good condition.
Okay. Now, Miss Harris, you seem like an intelligent lady.
I would hope so.
You know the old saying, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck? Did you ever hear that expression?
Yes, ma'am.
If it walks like a deadbeat and looks like a deadbeat, it's a deadbeat. You're supposed to know the difference at your stage in life.
Correct.
Do you understand? Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,000. That's all.
Bail bondsman Aaron McAllister says former client Elena Zadevich owes for unpaid bail money.
What were you arrested for, Miss Zadevich?
I was arrested on false charges of domestic violence that my ex filed against me.
I didn't ask you whether they were true or not true. I asked, what were you arrested for?
I was arrested on allegations of domestic violence.
Was it the first time you were arrested?
Yes.
Look at me. Was
Yes.
it the first time you were arrested? The answer is either yes or no.
No.
Better. When was the first time you were arrested?
Several years ago.
Having nothing to do with domestic violence.
Has something to do with domestic violence.
So you have 2 arrests for domestic violence?
That's correct.
Was it the same complainant in each case?
Different.
Different. Okay. You are a bail bondsman?
Yes, Your Honor.
It is your claim that you received a call from the defendant in jail. You responded. You bailed her out of jail. At her request, she promised to pay for the bond. She did not. You want your money.
Yes,
Defendant says you're a sleazy bail bondsman and she's not paying you.
correct.
When did you receive the call?
Sometime in the middle of the night from the county jail.
What night? I'm not Karnak. What night would
I'm
you
sorry.
like to tell me it is?
July the 15th.
In the middle of the night. You were home?
Correct. In bed.
How did you get his number?
It was posted on the wall in the county jail.
You have your home number posted in the wall in county jail?
No, ma'am. It's an office number that forwards to my cell phone in the evening and weekends.
I see. I wouldn't think that you'd want your house phone to have a number. Okay. What did the defendant say to you when she called?
That she was in jail and she had to get out. She had to get to work the next morning. If she didn't get out, she would lose her job.
What kind of job do you have?
I'm an executive assistant.
For whom?
For a small media startup.
How long have you had that job?
Close to a year.
10 months?
Something like that.
Where did you work before?
I was managing a medical spa.
Where?
Walnut Creek, California.
Okay. Have any family here?
Just my 2 children.
How old are they?
6 and 2.
They live with you?
Part-time.
Who do they live with the other part of the time?
Well, my son lives with, my daughter part-time lives with her paternal family.
Maternal or paternal?
Paternal.
Paternal. So the father's family, father's parents with her grandparents?
No, his brother and his family, they live very close by, about 10-minute drive from where I live, and she's there a lot because I work full-time.
Okay. So you had to get to work at the media startup company when you called him?
Correct.
Did you tell him that you were going to take care of paying his bail?
What happened was I told him that I didn't have any money.
No. When you called him on the phone from jail, you told him I don't have any money?
Correct.
Is that right?
No.
Of course not.
Right. I wouldn't.
Of course not, because if you tell you, please bail me out of jail, but I don't have any money, and he doesn't know you from a hole in the wall, he's not getting out of his warm bed in the middle of the night. Madam.
Well, he did.
No. He did. The question was, did you tell him that you didn't have any money?
Yes, I did.
He says you didn't, and I'm saying I believe him that at that time you didn't tell him I have no money. Because if he's in business and he gets a call from a stranger, you are a stranger, right?
Correct.
That I want you to get up out of bed, drive over to the jail and bail me out. But by the way, I have no money. He'd say, call somebody else.
That's exactly what I said.
All right. I don't believe you. Go ahead.
We discussed that she had a CD, and the CD was maturing within the next 30 days, and that there would be ample
That she would have money.
Correct. In the CD to pay me out of the proceeds of the CD. And she didn't want to cash it in early because she didn't want to pay the penalty. I agreed to those terms within 30 days that she would use the CD.
Was this on the telephone?
That was on the telephone.
Okay. Because you did ask her the question about money.
Correct.
And when you said, do you have money, what did she say?
I have a CD.
Okay. So, did you tell her how much the bail would be?
Correct. 10%, $5,000.
Because she had $50,000 bail?
Correct.
That's a high bail for domestic violence.
It is.
Do you know why it was so high?
That's per the schedule in that county. That's always $50,000 for a felony charge.
It's a felony.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So we get her out. We memorialize our agreement in writing. She
Can I
signs
see it,
a
please?
bail contract and the agreement to pay.
Can I see it, please? Okay, so you signed an agreement to pay him the $5,000.
I had no choice. He made me sign it.
But
Madam,
listen to me very carefully, madam. You have a choice. Your choice is to stay in jail until the matter on which you were arrested for is tried. That's your choice. You chose.
had a different agreement.
No. This is your agreement. This in here is your agreement, in the four corners of this agreement. And what I asked you was, did you sign this agreement? And the answer is either yes or no. Not
Yes,
I was forced
did
to
sign
sign
that
it.
agreement, but aside from that, there was an oral agreement that took place between me and Mr. McCallister.
I'll get
and
to
I
you in
had-
a minute.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Once the agreement's signed, I get her out of jail. She says, now what do? I live 30 minutes from here. I agreed to give her a ride. She's worried about getting to work, so I give her a ride. And it's about 30 minutes away. So during that time, she tells me the entire story about the arrest, and I attempt to be understanding that, she was arrested, and I'm sorry, and that's a bad thing, and you're dealing with a breakup, and, how she caught her boyfriend with his new girlfriend laying on the couch that she paid for or she picked out. And the entire time in the car,
Would you look at me when you're telling me this story, Mr. McAllister? Look at me. Don't look down there.
Sorry. The entire time in the car, she says, I'm not a stalker, I'm not a stalker. I go, okay, sorry, you're not a stalker. No problem. Okay, I'll get you to your vehicle. Well, the vehicle's parked 3 blocks away from the house where she was living or where she was arrested. So there's obviously something going on there. Anyway, I get her out, she signs the agreement, and she refuses to pay
just
me.
a second. When did she sign the agreement?
Immediately upon release from the county jail.
Okay. And then you drove her to her car,
Correct.
and you dropped her, and she never paid you.
Right. I made
When, for
repeated
the first time, did you contact her with regard to payment?
Well, within 10 days, we sent her an invoice, just a reminder of the payment terms, and sent her 4 or 5 subsequent invoices that went answered with these rambling letters talking about...
Do you have a copy of the letters?
I do.
Can I see them, please?
Those are her letters to me and then my responses.
Based upon our discussion, these are your words, when he initially asked you for your money. Based upon our discussion, it was my understanding that we would discuss my opportunity to provide some type of service to you and your business in lieu of paying you $5,000 for a relatively risk-free, as you put it, bond. I am still awaiting the opportunity to make good on my offer to work for your company. As you were advised at the time the bond was posted, I have not, or do not have now, $5,000 fee that you are demanding. Given the above-mentioned discussions that we had at the time of the unsecured bond was posted, I now consider your correspondence demanding $5,000 to be intimidating and threatening. What are you, crazy? Please do not send me any more threatening letters. You knew my financial predicament at the time bail was posted. I still intend to honor my promise to perform professional services for you. You never promised to perform professional services for him. Your own letter says, it was my understanding that we would discuss my opportunity to provide some type of service to you or your business in lieu of paying for the bond. Given the above-mentioned discussions that we had at the time, I now consider your... Discussions aren't a contract, madam.
Let me tell you what happened.
Yeah,
Because he's not telling you the whole truth. What happened, he bails me out.
Are you, just a second, are you telling me the whole truth? Listen, are you telling me the whole truth?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
About your children's living arrangements, you're telling me the whole truth?
We're not talking about my children right now. I want to tell you.
You mean you're telling the truth?
About what's
Listen to
happened.
me. You're telling the truth sometimes, and sometimes you can lie. And when am I supposed to tell the difference? You see, I knew that you were lying to me about your children's living situation. That you're not willing to discuss.
What did I lie about?
Listen to me. My question to you is, how am I supposed to tell when you're lying, and how am I supposed to tell when you're telling the truth?
I do tell the truth.
But you just lied to me today.
About what?
You lied about your children's living situation.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
How did I?
Oh, yes, you did. And you know you did. You know that they live with me part-time, they live with some part-time, they live here because I work. That's not the story. But that's a story you chose to tell me. Now, you told me that with the same veracity as you told me that you had another contract with him. And my question to you is, how am I supposed to tell when you're telling the truth and when you're lying?
What I'm saying is the truth.
Okay. Now I'm going to hear you, and then I'll tell you what the law is.
Okay. Well, he bails me out. He drives me to my vehicle. On the way to my vehicle, he makes comments about, and he says, well, it would be nice if a pretty woman like you worked for my company, doing some sort of marketing and promoting my company, and maybe we can work something out in terms of paying for the bail bond that he posted on my behalf. So when he dropped me off by my vehicle, and before he left, he made me sign the agreement that you saw after we had the conversation of me potentially working for his company.
Did you get what you said to me, madam? You just said to me, maybe you could work for my company. Maybe you could work for my company.
And
that's not an agreement.
No,
that's not. No. After that, nothing. You took that, and I believe that you said that to her. Well, maybe you could work for my company and do something. Maybe you said it to her. Who cares? It's not relevant. There was no contract.
I said I couldn't work for him full time as he proposed. So he said,
no, madam.
We can work something out, and you can work for me on weekends.
Your Honor.
Oh, listen to me. Listen to me. You're making it up as you're going along.
No.
Yes.
No, I have
you are,
a
because
letter.
according to what you said to me, after you had that discussion, after, not before. You see, he said you signed this at the jail.
No.
You say I signed it after I had the discussion with him about working with him part-time, weekends, etc. If that was true, that's not contained in this agreement.
No.
And I believe, madam, that you are one smart cookie. And if he had this conversation with you where you made a contract with him, a contract that's enforceable, to work off the bail bond by working for him part-time, you would have put it in this agreement because you're already out of jail. You see, you're already out. Because you're already bailed out. So then you could either say to him, I'm not signing this. Or you say, it's not the entire agreement that we have. But you didn't. You signed it and said, I promise to pay you $5,000.
Well, he told me right there that if you don't sign it, I'm just going to put you right back to jail. That's what he told me.
I don't believe you. You're making it up as you're going along. No. You're making it up as you're going along because if he said to you, you sign this or I'm going to take you back to jail.
That's what he said.
Your response would have been, well, then put in our agreement that I could work it off. Right? Right?
I was very stressed.
Oh, listen, it's not the first time you were arrested. That's why I asked you the question before. It's not the first time. It's probably not the second time that you were arrested. So pay him his money. You owe him his money. Don't be a con artist. Judge him for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Danielle Hines says her former live-in boyfriend, Devin Kilpatrick, owes for rent and the return of property. Devin says he moved out after Danielle filed for a restraining order.
Ms. Hines, the defendant is your former boyfriend. You
Yes.
lived together. He's also the father of your child.
Yes.
You had a lease together. He moved out 4 months prior to the lease terminating.
Yes.
You took him to court for 2 months of the 4 months.
Yes.
Because the other 2 months hadn't passed yet. And you got a judgment against him for those 2 months.
Yes.
Now you want the last 2 months of the rent that he owes you. And you also claim that you had a lot of pain and suffering because he wasn't a nice guy.
Yes.
Well, forget pain and suffering. You don't get paid for pain and suffering. You terminate a relationship for pain and suffering. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. So you want your rent.
Yes.
Mr. Kilpatrick has a very good excuse for not paying the rent for the last 2 months.
Yes, I do, ma'am.
He says that the reason he didn't pay rent for the last 2 months is because you filed a restraining order against him and his mother, and so he couldn't live in the apartment, and if he couldn't live in the apartment, then he wasn't going to pay rent.
Not
That's
true.
his defense.
Yes.
So, when did you move into the apartment?
We moved in March 14, 2006.
And you were both on the lease?
Yes, we were.
And when did you leave, sir?
I'm not exactly sure.
When did he
I
leave?
am November 9th, and they filed for the restraining order. He was
November 9th,
Yes.
2006.
Yes.
And when did you file a restraining order
I
against him?
filed November 2nd, but he was served November 14th at 5:55 a.m.
But you had filed it on November 2nd.
Yes.
I want to see the allegations that you put in the restraining order application. Thank you. You filed this on November the 2nd, and according to this, it says the most recent date of abuse was September 10th, 2006. And you say he strangled me to the point that I could not scream anymore. He also stated that he would only get a slap on the wrists.
If he did it again.
It would be something he would hit me because it was his first offense. And you filed this 2 months later. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Between September 10th and November the 2nd, when you went to the police to file for this restraining order, where were you living?
I was staying there, but he wasn't.
You were in the apartment.
Yes.
And he was not living there.
He was still living there, but he never came home. He was in and out. He would go to his mom's house. We were sleeping in separate bedrooms. I was sleeping in my daughter's room, and he was sleeping in our bedroom.
Fine. So then my question, 2 months later, what prompted you to go to the police?
I don't have transportation. Not only was I trying to get to the courthouse to file a restraining order on him, everything in between then, I was going to the police station. I was always talking to the police about what I can do about our child and him getting out of the apartment, but not necessarily him moving out because I still needed him to pay his half of the rent.
Just a second. You asked for, in your restraining order, a stay-away order asking that he may not be within 15 feet from you. How was he supposed to be within 15 feet from you if he was still living in the apartment?
Because at the time, whenever he would come home, he would go in his room, and I'll either be sleeping in the living room on the floor or in our bedroom.
Listen, did you want him out of the apartment or in the apartment?
I wanted him to stay because he was still on
Then
the
there was
lease.
no reason for you to file for a protective order.
I just
It's
didn't want him to
nonsense.
hit me again.
You said that the last time he put his hands on you was when he choked you 2 months before. That's what you swore to in here.
Yes.
So that there had to be a reason, 2 months later, that you went to the police. You managed to find your way to the police.
Yes.
And file this protective order.
I went to the courthouse to file that.
Listen, you're not being honest with me. He moved out. He had a right to move out. He would have been crazy to stay there. Absolutely insane to stay there with a protective order. When all you have to do is pick up the phone, call the police, they come, they arrest him. And all you have to do is say, he threatened me, and he finds himself in jail. So he would be insane to stay in the apartment.
May I please say something?
Sure.
It says right here that he was not even served. He didn't even know I had a restraining order on him until after. I'm telling you.
It doesn't make any difference whether he knew or not, madam. You knew.
Yes.
So how dare you come here knowing that you had the restraining order, that you didn't serve on him for another couple of days, but you knew you had it,
Yes.
and still want him to pay rent?
Because his name was still on the lease. I did not ask Devin to leave. They said 15 feet because his name was still on the lease. They could not kick him out. I had no choice. I didn't want him to put his hands on me again, Judge.
Good.
I was afraid. I didn't know what else to do.
I understand. You should have left. Should have left. But you can't go get a restraining order on him and say you have to stay in the house, despite the fact that I have a restraining order on you.
Okay.
So now you are like my prisoner. You look at me cross-eyed, I'm going to call the police. Whether he did anything bad to you in September or not, I don't know. Certainly you didn't go to the police in September. So he would be nuts to stay with you. And now you come to court and you say, I want him to pay the rent.
Yes, because...
When he did nothing to you in November, nothing to you in October, nothing to you 3 weeks in September. If I believe that you got into a fight and he put his hands on you in September, I'm not condoning that.
Okay.
And if you put him out right away, I would have said, okay.
Okay.
And if I believed that he choked you in September, I would have said, you're bad. You have to pay the rent.
Okay.
But when you wait 2 months, there's something else going on.
I tried.
Okay,
I
I'm
did
trying
everything-
to. Believe
No,
me, I'm
Judge,
trying.
I did everything I could to get to the police department. I went throughout the month of October to get information on what I could do because he's the father of my child. I was trying to ask for information about child custody and what I could do about everything.
I'm not talking about child custody.
I know
I'm
it's
talking
domestic
I'm
violence.
talking about a restraining order.
Okay.
Not child custody, not support, not anything else. Just about the fact that you were in abject fear of him and in need of a protective order that excluded him from the house. Because not to be within 15 feet of you is a ridiculous order against somebody that you expect to live in the apartment with you. Ridiculous. I'm telling you, you cannot live with somebody with a restraining order and expect them to stay in the apartment. Because of the way the laws are recognized now, all you have to do is call the police and say, he looked at me cross-eyed, I want him arrested. And then he's there on a violation of a protective order, which allows them to incarcerate him for up to 6 months by just looking at you cross-eyed.
But those were not my intentions.
Oh, listen, I don't care what your intentions were or not. The fact is you did have a restraining order against him, and he was perfectly right to leave because you didn't go and file that restraining order at the time you allege he hurt you. You waited 2 months. So there was some other agenda that you had, and I don't know what that was because you look at me, like you don't understand what I'm talking about. But then you were served with the restraining order and you came back into the apartment with your mother.
No, not my mother.
When?
Around, I guess, a week later.
After you were served?
Yeah, I came, I got all my stuff, and then that was it.
Not true.
You came and you got some of your stuff, included the refrigerator.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's what she's
Well,
annoyed at because
I
the
had-
refrigerator, she said, was given to both of you as a couple by your mother.
She didn't give it to us both as a couple. She
I
gave
don't
it to
care.
me.
Yeah, she did at the time because you were both eating out of the refrigerator, I
Judge.
assume. But he's allowed to keep the refrigerator.
It was not a week later. It was the same day because I had to purchase a refrigerator the very same day. I have the receipt with the date.
But I
and
don't
time
understand
on it.
what you want, and I don't understand what your pain and suffering is.
Because I almost had a miscarriage. I had to be taken out of school literally on November 29th. My doctor had to write me an excuse because I had to keep on being rushed to the hospital. And I have all the hospital papers stating that I had
You have a hospital paper that says it's his fault that you almost had a miscarriage?
Well, it was stress.
Of course it's stressful. Life is stressful, madam. Life is stressful.
Yes, it is.
Life is stressful. You don't want to be stressed until you're sure about somebody. You shouldn't get pregnant by them.
Actually, those were my intentions either.
Well, it's
I
not
have
your
papers
intentions.
show-
That what you do is you take care.
But I was on birth control. I have the papers proving that I was on birth control. You would like to see it.
Well, I suggest you sue the birth control company because it failed. Listen to me, Miss Hines. Are you living in the apartment now by yourself?
Yes. No.
Well, how are you supporting yourself?
I had money that was saved up, and I spent all that money on the rent.
How old are you?
I'm 20 and a half.
So why don't you go to your father or your mother's house? You're 20 years old and you have a baby. He should pay child support, but he's not going to support you. You're not his wife.
I know.
He said he'll contribute to the support of his child. He absolutely should do that.
But he's
Are you paying
not.
child support?
No, not yet.
Why not?
She just, I don't know, she just filed it, I guess.
She doesn't have to file it. Did you see your baby?
Yeah.
Well,
no.
You have to take care of your baby.
I see him when I can. I work about 6 days a week, so I can't be there all the time.
Well, if you work 6 days a week, then what you should do is you should have enough money to help support him.
But he
And you don't
doesn't.
need a court order to tell you that, sir. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
I should see the money coming out of your wallet right now.
Please, for some diapers. I would like some diapers.
Listen
for
to
our
me.
son.
Don't talk to him.
Okay, I won't.
I should see the money coming out of your wallet now. Did you hear what I said?
I heard you.
Get it out.
Don't have none in my wallet.
How could a man who works 6 days a week not have any money in their wallet?
I don't keep money in my wallet.
Where do you keep it?
In the bank.
Good. How much money do you have in the bank?
Don't know.
Well, I've got news for you, sir. When ultimately you're going to want to see this child, and the tape of this is going to be available for her, for whatever, you get no sympathy from me if a father needs a court order to tell him that he's supposed to pay child support. Court's not supposed to tell you that. And here is supposed to tell you that. Do you understand? So the support should be forthcoming. You don't have to pay anything for rent. Because she wanted to live alone, she filed for a protective order against you. And if that's the case, then she pays the rent. Got it?
Okay.
And if you don't want to pay the rent, go home to your mother. Or get a job and start supporting yourself.
I will.
Good. Perfect. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Ashley McLeod says former friend Justin Lawler owes for late fees associated with a broken window on her rental car. Ashley says police officers were forced to break into the car after Justin passed out drunk.
Miss McLeod, you and the defendant were friends. It's my understanding that you wanted to take a little day road trip together. You needed a car, so you rented a car on your credit card.
Yes.
And you were going from someplace to San Diego?
Actually, we were going from Austin, Texas to South Padre Island. And Justin had told me that he had to be on the rental car agreement because I couldn't rent the car by myself because I was under 21.
Okay, but the car was leased with your credit card?
Yeah.
Okay, and he was driving?
Yes.
What time did you rent the car?
We had gone that Friday. It was sometime in the afternoon to rent the car. And then we were going to leave for South Padre shortly after we had rented the car.
And you did?
Yep.
Was he drinking?
When the incident occurred, he had been to a few bars. He'd had a few drinks.
Well, that would be a yes.
Yes.
To make a long story short, what happened was he took the car to go from one place to another. I don't know where you were going. But according to you pulled the car over and fell asleep, but fell into a dead sleep coma because the police came up to the car and they tried to wake you.
It was actually parked in a parking spot.
They tried to wake you, and they couldn't wake you from this deep coma sleep. They banged on the door, they rapped with their baton, and then they feared for your safety. Since the car was locked, they busted out the window of the car in order to ensure that you were safe.
Ashley McLeod says former friend Justin Lawler owes for late fees associated in her rental car. Ashley says police officers were forced to break into the car after Justin passed out drunk.
Now, the car had to be taken in to be fixed. You paid for the window, but it took time, and she was charged $500 extra on her credit card that she feels as if you're responsible for, because but for the fact that you fell asleep in the car, it wouldn't have happened. That's your case.
Yes.
Mr. Lawler has an interesting defense that we are all breathlessly waiting to hear.
When we first rented the car, I actually told her to get the rental car insurance because that way if anything did happen, we would not be liable for the damages done. And at that time, she said that she had insurance. It would be $100 cheaper. The guy rang it up with the insurance on it for the rental car. And then she said, well, no, it'd be cheaper if we do it the other way. I didn't want to because I had rented a car before and know that if you get rental car insurance, it covers everything. So she insisted on putting her current insurance on there. And once we got down there, her mom, she talked to her, told her the insurance was on there. And then her mom said if anything happened to that car, that their insurance would get dropped. So the insurance didn't cover the actual damages done at all.
Can I say something? What?
No!
Oh, sorry.
I'm not finished with him.
Sorry.
So let me understand his defense. His defense is she should have taken out the insurance.
Right.
That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
Sounds right to you?
Well, that sounds like what he said.
That sounds right. Yeah. Why did you fall asleep in the car, Mr. Lawler?
Why did I fall asleep in the car?
Just a second. Is there an echo in here? I know that you think that it's going to give you an opportunity to think of a reason.
He wasn't sleeping.
I'll get back to you. Why did you fall asleep in the car?
I had a couple drinks and I passed out in the car, and it was parked in a parking spot.
There you go.
I was not driving the car though that night.
All right, Mr. Lawler, let's dissect what you just said to me.
Okay.
You think that because you talk fast, then I'm not going to be able to dissect what you said to me? Okay. So you had had a few drinks and you passed out in the car.
I pulled the car over. I didn't
That's
drink. Yes,
what you just said. Had a few drinks. Now, where did you do this drinking?
I had a couple hotel rooms.
Not in bars. You were in hotel rooms.
No, I was actually... Sorry.
Who were you in hotel rooms with?
Just different kids we were selling tickets for our Akon party that next day.
How many different hotel rooms had you been in drinking that night?
Just a couple, actually.
Same hotel?
Just different ones.
Different hotels?
Yes.
How did you get there from one to the other?
I drove the first...
I drove.
The first one, yes.
Just a minute. I drove. And how'd you get to the second one?
The second one?
Yes, the
My
second
friend took
one.
me the second one in his
The
car.
second one. Your friend took you in his car, and you left your car where?
There's a condo that was parked at.
You didn't tell me you were in a condo, sir. You said you were in hotel
Well,
rooms.
that's what South Potter has, condos and hotels. We just go to different ones.
You told me you were in a hotel room. Do you see where we're going, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Cameras pick up everything. So do my eyes. I have very, very bad vision when I have to read something without my glasses. Far away, I can tell a smirk and an I gotcha from a mile away. What do you do for a living?
I'm a promoter for a production company.
They're usually pretty glib and pretty light on their feet. Promoters. I've been promoting myself for 3 times as long as you're alive. You owe her for the car. And you're going to pay her for the car because it was your fault.
Even though the insurance...
Your fault! Nobody laid you down, pried open your mouth, and poured alcohol down your throat. Nobody told you to fall asleep in the car. Nobody told you not to tell your friend, would you please take me back to one of these condos where I'm supposed to be staying tonight? Nobody told you any of that. You were drunk. You drove a car drunk. You passed out in the car. Your fault. You pay for it.
The remaining charges that he owes me for is $541.63.
Did you pay for your half of the rental?
Yes.
Okay. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $541.63. Thank you very much. That's all.
Judge, number 204 on the calendar in the matter of Miller versus Hager. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Have a seat.
Shame on you both. Always strikes me is when 2 adult men get into a car and get into a contest and let their testosterone take off and rule their heads, there's trouble. Especially when there's a child in the car, like this gorgeous little blonde thing. Mr. Miller, you're suing Mr. Hager because you say that after some sort of a dispute in your car, he was driving his, you yours, he attacked your car with a club.
Yes.
And caused almost $400 worth of damage to the car. Tell me how it started, sir.
I was making a turn off of Valley View Street. I was going south. There's a frontal road there beside of it. Hager was coming, going south also on it. He run the stop sign. And as a result of it, I almost hit him. If I hadn't stopped, I would have hit him. I blew my horn. He raised his finger at me, and we proceeded down the frontal road.
So you're both now going in the same direction?
We're both going in the same direction.
And this is your grandchild?
Yes.
She was in the car with you?
Yes.
Where was she sitting, front or back?
Well, it was a pickup, so she's in front.
Right next to you?
Yes.
Go ahead.
We came to an alley that runs down behind a shopping mall, and we proceeded down it, and we got to the end of the store.
Which car was first and which car was second?
He was following me.
Just a second. His car was first, your car was second.
Yes.
Were you following him, sir?
Yes.
Why?
I was behind him.
I mean, were you following?
I'm going in that direction.
He was chasing me.
Shh, just a second. I'm going to get to you in a second, sir. You said you got to an alley.
Well,
You were-
it's an alley, and it's also behind the store, but it's a parking lot also.
Well, were you going into that parking lot, sir?
No, I wasn't going into the
So
parking
you
lot.
were actually not behind him. You were following him.
Okay, I was following him.
Now, why were you following him?
So I could get his tag number.
Okay. And then what happened?
As we got to the end of the stores, there's also another small frontal road that leads to the front of the stores. He partially made the turn and stopped, jumped out, grabbed his club, and ran at me while I'm stopped. I had, in the meantime, stopped. He ran about 30 feet towards my truck, ran up to the side of me, took a swing at me. I pulled my truck forward, and he hit the back of my cab.
Can I see the damage to your car?
If you'll notice, Your Honor, the damage is at an angle as if he was swinging something, and you'll see that it's also right in line with me in the truck. So if I hadn't pulled forward, he would have hit me in the truck.
This has an open top, sir?
No, it's you looking at? May I get it to you? Oh, come on, surely. I take better pictures than that.
I got it. I got it now. Oh, I thought it was a convertible truck. I hadn't seen one of those. All right. Now I got it. All right, Mr. Hager, let's hear you, sir.
Well, what he said is correct as far as he was following me. I was very close to my home. I didn't want him, I wasn't going to go home knowing he was following me. I became fearful, wasn't sure what I should do. So yeah, I stopped, and in an attempt to defend myself, knowing that not knowing what he's going to do, I did take my club. He sees me stop. He's coming at me. He puts his head out the window of his truck and says, "I'm going to run you over." That's when he started to come at me with the truck. I jump out of the way, and he backs up a little bit and comes at me again. The second time is when he came close enough to me that I could swing and hit the truck.
All right, so I have a few questions for you, Mr. Hager. You live in that area, sir?
Yes. I was less than a block away from my home.
And how long have you lived there?
About 18 months.
So you know where the local police precinct is?
Actually, I found it after this.
You mean you didn't know before?
No. Well, it's a very large city. I wasn't sure where to go.
I don't believe you, sir. You see, I see this. You see, I see this around here.
Well,
and I'm like a truth machine. So don't tell me that you didn't know where to find a policeman.
I went to. Well, no, that would have been the alternative. Was drive around.
That's an alternative rather than getting out of your car with a club.
Right.
Because it doesn't seem to me to be logical, sir, that if you're in fear of your life, you are defending yourself against a 2-ton truck with a 2-pound club.
Right.
You see, that doesn't make sense. To me, what makes sense is if you're in fear, you stay in your car. What kind of a car were you driving?
A Camaro.
So you stay in your Camaro and you drive around until you see a police car, if you don't know where the local police precinct is.
Right.
Right.
But I thought of that after, but in the fear, I wasn't thinking that logically.
Listen to me, Mr. Hager. Why were you in fear, sir? You were in your car, windows closed, right? Windows closed.
No.
You could have closed the windows, Mr. Hager, right? You do have
yes.
electric windows in your Camaro?
Yes.
So you press a button, you close the window, and you keep driving, and you say to yourself, I got some nut here behind me. I'm not going to get out of this car. I'm going to stay in my car. But you get out of your car. Where was the club?
On the passenger seat.
You pick up the club, and you get out of your car. That doesn't make sense to me, Mr. Hager.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Wonder how afraid he was when he stuck his finger up. Could we ask him that question?
And later today,
Make me look like a liar. Make me look bad when you know you was stripping and you know you was working, Nicole. Don't stand there and lie.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bird Miller says Jason Hager's gesture led to violence, smashing Bird's pickup.
You pick up the club and you get out of your car. That doesn't make sense to me, Mr. Hager. It doesn't, it's illogical, sir.
To drive around looking for the police, I needed to, at some point, decide I'm going to stop and defend myself. That was it.
Defend yourself against what, sir?
This gentleman.
He's in his car.
I don't know that he's going to threaten to run me over. I think he's going to get out.
How can he run you over in your Camaro, sir? Sitting in your car, how can he run you over, Mr. Hager?
He can't.
Right. Sitting in your car, he can't run you over. Only when you're outside of your car, standing there armed with a weapon, can he run you over. Your mistake was getting out of the car. And then you hit his truck. So you were in a combat posture with a weapon. I mean, I'm not suggesting that what this man did was correct. I think, Mr. Miller, to be quite honest with you, sir, you're old enough to use your brains, and if this guy ran a stop sign, as you say, of course, you didn't run the stop sign. Is that correct?
Correct.
I knew that. I knew that's what you would say. But you have a very precious cargo. Not you, her. And so if you have a very precious cargo, and if you were fortunate enough, and God was watching you, and you didn't have an accident at that stop sign, you take a deep breath, and you say, "Phew, finished. I'm grateful that there was no accident," and you keep going. If you can get his license, that's fine. But to follow him into an alley is not swift.
It's really not an alley, Your Honor. I understand what you're saying, but
you understand what I'm saying.
I don't mean it's a,
I understand, but you got hot.
Oh, absolutely.
So
I'm not denying it at all.
Yeah, well, you want to get hot with you alone in the car. That's one thing, but you don't get hot when you have a baby in the car, especially a baby that looks like that.
Could I add something to this?
Sure, sir.
Okay. He said I almost hit him there at the stop sign. If you look at the pictures, you will see there's a median between Valley View and where he would have been sitting. So, in other words, I would have had to jump across the median in order to hit him.
Interesting, not terribly relevant, because we're not talking about what happened at the stop sign. What we're talking about was Mr. Hager's. You both exercised poor judgment on that day, in my view. But Mr. Hager's judgment is going to cost him the amount that you claim you spent or will spend to fix your car, and I assume you have a bill for that.
Your Honor, I have a bill for the damage. I don't have a bill for a rental car. It'll take 3 days to fix the truck, which is $25 a day.
Well, Mr. Miller, for your bad judgment, it's going to cost you to rent your car.
All right.
For his bad judgment, it's going to cost him to fix your car. And the grand total here is $279.80 to fix your car. Mr. Hager, it was a very dumb thing that you did, because he may not have been the kind of person that he is, and he may have, in fact, run you over. And your
sure of that.
And your 2-pound club wasn't going to help you. So,
well, my question is, if he cares enough about this truck to get it fixed, why is he chasing people and threatening them with it?
Mr. Hager, he wasn't smart to try to chase you to get your plate number, and I assume that that's what he was trying to do. He did not get out of his cab. You got out of your car. Dumb. Stupid. And not only did you get out of your car, you got out of your car with a weapon. So it's going to cost you. The amount it's going to cost you is the amount that it's going to cost to fix his car. That's all.
He's excused. You may step out.
Thank you, Bill.
I'll have the back door to your right, please.
Come on.
And now the next case.
Party's on Cruz. Ambrosini versus Hernandez. Step forward, please.
16-year-old Nicole Ambrosini and her 20-year-old boyfriend Moses Cruz claim exotic dancer Lisette Hernandez owes them a refund on a condo.
You folks were living in the same hotel that the defendant was living in temporarily. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that where you became friends?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Well, we didn't become friends there. We became friends at work.
Okay. Don't tap. And there came a time when you were going to buy a condo. Is that right?
Yes.
And you approached the defendants to see if they wanted to rent a room in your condo that you were purchasing.
Exactly.
According to these papers, you said yes?
Yes.
And you needed some money.
Exactly.
How much money did you need?
$700.
And as sort of a down payment on their room, you gave her the $700?
Correction, Your Honor, that was $750. I have 2 contracts here signing. I had to pay a $500 first month and a $250 security deposit.
Can I see what you have there,
Yes,
please?
ma'am. These are 2 pieces of evidence that I have, 2 contracts that Lisette signed herself.
Okay, fine. So let's assume it was $750. This is some contract.
I was in a rush, Your Honor. Grabbed the first thing I could. Next one's better.
Okay. And then, for some reason, which I'm sure that you will tell me, you decided not to move into the condo, and she gave you back $100, according to these papers. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am, she has.
And you want the other $650.
Yes, ma'am, I will.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She was dancing with me. We were both dancers.
No. I'm sorry, I'm 16
And I made
years old.
$3,000.
I'm 16 years old.
I made $3,000 and she know that.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 16-year-old Nicole Ambrosini and her 20-year-old boyfriend Moses Cruz want the money back on a condo from exotic dancer Lisette Hernandez. Lisette says they moved out without giving notice.
Well, there came a time, I gather from these papers, that you moved out of the hotel but did not move right into the condo.
Right, Your Honor.
Where did you move?
Okay, at that time, we needed
This
a
is your
place.
boyfriend?
Yes, this is my boyfriend, Moses. We were looking for another location to live while we were waiting for the condo. We were going to just stay in the hotel. It was very expensive, so Lisette kindly offered us to stay in her boyfriend's house and pay $100 a week. We did that, and we stayed there for about 2 to 3 weeks, I believe, and we paid him for every week. At that time, we were told that she needed the money immediately, and we gave that money to her within 3 days because she had said she had a closing to meet. And it would
Closing on the condo.
Yes.
I understand that.
She said it would be about a month to get it, okay? So in our minds, we're thinking, okay, we only have to tough this out for about a month. We wound up not getting a condo or not moving into a place for 3 months. We were waiting to move in for 3 months.
Just a minute.
For 3 months, Your Honor.
Did you stay in the boyfriend's house for 3 months?
Yes. No, we did not. We stayed in the boyfriend's house for about 3 weeks. The other times we were staying at the hotel, and then my father was moving out of his apartment, and he was moving out half of the month early. So
you moved someplace else.
Yes. Right.
But there came a time when you ultimately said to her, I don't want to move
Yes.
in.
Right.
And when was that?
That was in, I guess, February, March, April.
How much
April.
after you had left the hotel and moved into the boyfriend's house did you tell her, I want my money back, I don't want to move in?
About a month.
That's a lie.
Okay, you tell me.
That's a lie. It was one day. Okay, this is what happened. When they moved into the apartment with my boyfriend, with me and my boyfriend, they was paying $100 a week, which is true. Okay, now, when they was moving out, I didn't know they was moving out. My boyfriend tells me one day, Lisette, do you know that they moving out? I said, what? He said, yeah, they moving out. I said, no, I don't know nothing about it. He said, well, I'm getting ready to leave, so when I leave, you talk to them and ask them. When I came to you and asked her, I said, Nicole, y'all moving out? She said, yeah, we moving out. My father left me. Wait a minute. My father left me. My father left me an apartment, and I'm going to move into it, and we're going to keep paying the rent there or whatever to stay there. I said to her, so what do you expect me to do? You expect me to take the money right now and just give it to you when I don't have it? You know I'm trying to get this condominium, and I don't have the money right now to give to you. Okay, but before that happened, one day we had went out, or we was working or whatever. She was waitressing, and I was working in a place where we was working at.
I made $4,000 that day, and I said to Nicole, I said, here, you know, I gave her like $1,200 to help her out or whatever. I never asked her for the money back. I never said nothing to her.
Listen to me. Listen to me.
Your Honor,
That's exactly what it was, $1,200.
Miss Hernandez, I'm going to simplify this. I've just, while you've been telling me this whole story, been looking at these two papers. These two papers, I assume that you recall signing. Is that right?
Right, and I agreed to pay her back the money. I did.
Okay, so...
And I told her that I would pay for it as soon as I'd be able to get the money.
You signed the contract. So you owe her the money.
Right.
How much did you pay her back?
$100.
So you owe her $650.
Right, but she moved to Texas. But how did she expect me? I live in Florida. She lives, hold up, she gave me an address and expects me to make her money order every week and send her $50.
She said she would do
stamp
that.
and everything.
Moses.
I said to her, let me finish.
sorry,
They
Moses.
said they will come back to they was moving back to Florida, whatever.
Miss Hernandez.
She said that.
Moses.
Moses.
You got to train him better.
I try, Your Honor. I try.
You got to try harder. If you don't do it now, it'll be too late. Do you understand?
Yes.
They get into bad habits.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Miss Hernandez, you owe her the $650.
Right.
Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $650.
Your Honor, I'm sorry. I wanted to make this easier for you, but in that time that I was struggling, trying to get money back, broke, Lisette wasn't paying us, my mother, who is a witness here today, sent me $300. I was living independently at the time.
What are you lecturing
exactly.
about? Just a second. What are you lecturing about? You sued for $650.
That's
I
what I
gave
owe
you $650.
Okay.
Say goodbye and thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Nerves.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I'm a dancer, number one. She was dancing with me. We were both dancers.
No. I'm sorry, I'm 16
And I made
years old.
$3,000.
I'm 16 years old.
I made $3,000 and she know that.
We won, we have our money, it doesn't money.
And you're still a little liar. Okay, you're still a little liar. You
Better
got
than
your
a
mom.
prostitute.
She's a bigger prostitute.
To your house. Your house. And did you move in there with your child, sir?
Yes.
You have a daughter.
Yes.
How old is she?
3.
You have custody of her?
Not full custody, no.
Were you living with her full time when you moved into their house?
With my daughter, partial time, half and half.
And according to the complaint, during the time that he lived there, each of you were foolish enough to let him use a credit card. And he ran up substantial bills on those credit cards and then took off. Why don't you start? First, what prompted you to let him move into the house?
Well, I was going to rent a room to somebody anyway to help me make ends meet, and they were getting together, and he was interested in moving out from his mother's place. She was driving him nuts or something, so he needed a place to live. So it worked out. It seemed fine for both of us.
But according to these papers, he moved into your daughter's room.
Yes, they were a couple by then.
So that didn't help to pay your bills if...
Well, he was going to pay rent. Yes, he was paying rent.
He was paying rent?
Yes, he paid the rent.
How much rent did he pay?
$400 a month.
Okay, now would you mind telling me why you gave him a credit card?
It started out just, you know, he wanted to make some purchases and he only got paid every 2 weeks, and he was gaining weight, needed clothes and what have you, and he would give me a post-dated check. And I let him do that, and he did. The first couple of purchases, he gave me a check, and I held it, and then, you know, when he got paid and it was good, I mailed it in to the credit card company.
Did you give him his own credit card, or did you just let him use yours?
No, he had authorization. Cammie has copies of my cards. We have, you know, 2 cards on the account, so if she was with him and they were shopping, they would get something and put it on my card. And he gave me a check and paid me back. So the first 2 or 3 times, you know, that was swell, it worked. And he wanted to make some larger purchases, and the arrangement...
Like what?
Oh, well, he was trying to build his car to race, so he wanted like a transmission, and he had this good deal and a converter and different things that he was buying. And the arrangement was that he would make the payments to the credit card company, and that worked for me because then I didn't have to come up with the minimum. My minimum would be met. And he would get behind, like it would be 2 or 3 months. I'd get phone calls from the creditors and they'd say, you're behind, and I would check with him and he'd say, oh, I mailed it, I'll call him and straighten it out. So he did make some small payments on the minimums on the account. I can't say for the first few months because it would be 2 or 3 months before he made a payment, but you see, you know,
Okay, now
over
how
a
much
period
does
of
he
time.
owe altogether on your credit card? Take it out. We'll show it to him. Together with the purchase.
The total that that I have mine made up for is $4,926.60. That's documented amounts.
Okay. Have you shown those to him, those charges?
Yes, he has copies. He
You
has
have
been
copies
given
of those,
copies
sir?
in the past of all
I've had
of them.
copies. I don't have them with me now.
But you've seen them?
I've seen them, yeah.
Good. Now what about your credit card?
Okay, my credit card started out with he needed a gas tank fixed in his 68 Camaro because at the beginning of our relationship, that was his transportation to work. He didn't have the money.
First, what prompted you to have him come into your house? How long had you known each other before you decided to move him into your house?
We were friends before, and then we got together, and we were together every day since. And so
How long?
How long? That once we got together.
Now, how long were you friends first?
Oh, May of '96.
Yes.
And then got together July 4th.
Of 96?
Yes.
A really long courtship. At least 8 weeks.
Well, he's a very smooth talker. I was also coming out of a bad marriage, and it's nice when someone tells you, you know, all these wonderful things about you and makes you feel wanted and loved, which is what I needed at the time, I guess. And I think he played on that too, but that's a personal thing.
So he moved in?
Yes. And we made a room for his daughter. She had her very own room. My mom and I purchased all the stuff to decorate it. We made them, it was their home.
Are any of these bills for what you did in furnishing his daughter's room?
No. And Tiffany has her bedding and stuff. Her mother has it. She uses it with Tiffany.
But those were gifts?
Right, those were gifts, yes.
Okay, but so now tell me about how you came to give him your credit card.
He needed a gas tank, like I said, the repair, and he didn't have the money. And, you know.
Did you know that he was already using your mother's credit card?
No, he hadn't. He used mine before he used my mom's.
Did you know that he had used your daughter's before you let him use yours?
I don't really remember if I knew it specifically that he had.
Go ahead.
So we got his gas tank repaired. He was driving a long distance, and he'd run out, basically have to fill up just to get back home because it was all pouring out on the ground.
And how much was that?
That was $120. That's rough. I mean, I have it of the credit card thing.
Okay, but there are a lot of bills here, according to you. 3,000 some odd dollars worth.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She came in just ranting and raving because I was leaving. She didn't want me to leave. And then after she hit me, I defended myself and pushed her to the ground. Yes, I did.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
25-year-old Cammie Holman says the man she thought she loved, 24-year-old Jeffrey Slater, conned her and her mother, Lois Teeters, out of thousands of dollars. Jeffrey says Cammie is angry because they broke up.
Give me an idea of what he was purchasing on your credit card.
On mine specifically?
Not yours.
Robinson's May. He needed new clothes. Like my mom stated, he had gained weight when we got together. I guess he liked my mom's cooking. I don't know. So there were lots of purchases for new clothes for him, as well as one of his mom's Christmas present was purchased on my Robinson's May card.
Did you purchase your mother's Christmas present on her credit card?
She purchased it, yeah.
He was with me at shopping. His mother would not have gotten a Christmas present, or her boyfriend, if it hadn't been me paying for it.
Well, I understand that, but did he say, can I buy my mother a Christmas present and put it on your card?
No.
Shh. Did he say that to you?
He said, I said, we need to go shopping and buy your mom something. He said, well, what should we do? I said, well, let's go to Robinson's May and get something for her. So we went, because I have a Robinson's May card. But that's only $21.54. That's...
Well, you see, that's a problem.
Right.
Because in order to have an agreement for him to pay you back, there has to be some sort of an agreement. This wasn't a, you know, I'll lend you the money to buy your mom a Christmas present.
So we can get rid of the Christmas
So
present.
give me
that's
some
fine.
others.
Okay, so he got clothes for him, $297.25, $132.50, $43.09. Those are all closed for him.
Give me some of the big bills that come up to $3,000.
Jacob's
madam.
electronic system, that is an electronic system for his 68 race car, his Camaro. It's an electronic system.
And how much was that?
Part of it was $515.44. The other part is $281.85.
Does that, Mr. Slater, have a familiar ring to it?
I know exactly what the Jacob system is.
No, but does that bill?
Yeah, the bill, no, I know exactly what it is.
Well, then tell me about it, sir.
Well, during the time that we were living together, I went ahead and we were building my race car, or at the time we were building it.
What do you mean we were building your race car?
They were helping me purchase items for my car.
Yeah.
And during that time, I purchased an electronic system for making the car run proper. And I went ahead, ordered it with their consent. And when it came in, as time came on, I gave money for it over a period of time.
So you're telling me that you paid it all off?
I'm not saying I paid everything, because a lot of the stuff that we had purchased were purchases together.
No, not for your car.
Just
If
a
I wanted-
second.
I'm sorry.
Let's just talk about the car. I mean, I read your answer, and you seem to say, I don't owe her anything. That these were things that were purchased sort of as a couple.
A lot of stuff was purchased as a couple, yes, but as the car, over the course of time that I've lived there, I have paid money to the credit card companies
How
direct.
much? Show me.
This here, what I have in my hand is basically a check register on two different things that shows
I'm not
documentation.
interested in your check register, sir.
Well, what I'm saying is this here shows what I paid, when I paid, and amounts.
It shows nothing. Canceled checks show what you paid.
Okay, well, I can get canceled checks, but I did not get any, no.
Well, where did you think you were coming today, sir? To a ball? You were
Well-
coming to court. What do you do for a living, sir?
I'm a store manager.
Which means that you know something about business.
Correct.
Right? You can take a check register and sit down and do it almost like a novel. Write whatever you want in there. That's why we use canceled checks as proof. What is that? That is nothing. A
No.
check register is a nothing. How much did he pay in total on your credit card?
I don't know. I didn't include any of the ones that he had paid.
None.
No.
And what about you, Cammie?
He gave me about $140. That went to, he took my car to Bakersfield.
Whatever. He gave
And
you about
used the gas
$140.
card. Yes,
Can
it
I see some
wasn't
of these?
credit
Now I
cards.
want to take a look at some of the charges.
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Just the whole
These-
package. Yeah.
There's letters in there saying, we highlighted some.
I don't
parts
want the
for you.
letters. I just want to see
Okay.
the...
It just says that he's going to pay us. So I didn't know that particular one right there on top.
Jacobs Electronics ignition system, $515. Is that you?
That was mine.
Okay. How about trip to Texas airfare? What is that?
When we were dating, we were going to plan a trip to go to my father's house, and I didn't have the money at the time, and she made the arrangements with my job. She went ahead and purchased the tickets for me, Cammie, and my daughter, and we flew out.
So this was for me to go back and meet his family, to meet his family.
Is that what the trip was intended for, sir?
It was just supposed to be a trip for all of us to go visit, because I haven't seen my father in quite a few years.
Well, why should she pay for that?
It was a gesture. She said okay, and then I was going to pay part of it.
You were going to pay part of it?
Yeah, I was.
How much?
As much as my plane ticket was.
And what about your daughter?
Well, we hadn't talked about that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Pay $72 to get your hair styled. They're ripping you off, sir.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Cammie Holman says she thought she loved 24-year-old Jeffrey Slater until she realized he was conning her and her mother, Lois Teeters. Jeffrey denies the allegation.
We have something here. Spark plugs.
Yeah, he bought new spark plugs and wires for his car, Excel. It was at an auto parts store. They wouldn't take his check.
Is that you, sir? Spark plugs.
Yes,
Does that sound
probably.
familiar? Why don't you
could be.
pay your own bills? Why are you relying on these two ladies to pay your bills?
During that particular thing there, they would not accept a check from me at that time for whatever reason.
So why don't you just give them cash? Everybody accepts cash.
I didn't have cash on me.
Well, why don't you just go to the bank and get cash?
Well, we were going to, but Cammie said, well, why don't we just put it on my charge and then you can pay me back.
You said, can we just use your charge instead of having to leave and go to the bank and come back?
All right. Look, there came a time when you left, right?
Yes.
Why?
Things were working out between us, and I decided, things were going to work out for the long term, and I wanted to get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I left, things started getting more hectic. I had to have the cops called on her at my job.
Why is that, sir?
Because he hit me and threw me on the ground and left bruises, which the bruise pictures are at home. We accidentally forgot them.
When she came in my job, she come in ranting and raving because she didn't want me to leave, first of all. And
because you owe my
I
mom
said,
money.
okay. She came in just ranting and raving because I was leaving. She didn't want me to leave. And then after she hit me, I defended myself and pushed her to the ground. Yes, I did.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I got up, grabbed the phone to make a phone call to the police. And at that time, when I started coming up, she comes around our counter bin and hangs up the phone. And then grabs me by the hair and just yanks a ton of hair out. And then during that time, then she's saying, well, you owe my mom this, you owe my mom that, and I want it this and that. And then my phone rang. I finally got away from Cammie. And when the phone rang, I answered the phone, and it was the Fullerton Police Department when they had to come out and take her.
How much after you left did this incident occur? Assuming, sir, that what you say is true, how much after you left did she come to your job?
Oh, she came to my job a couple times, but we had numerous amount of phone calls during the day. And then what finally ended up happening after I had the cops come, I had to leave that job and go to a whole different area and get away from them. Because of the phone calls and everything else, I was in the verge of losing my job because of it.
And how much money have you sent to both plaintiffs since you left?
Since I left?
Yes.
Not specifically to them, but that I sent to the credit card companies are probably around maybe $800 or so.
Just a minute. $800?
Roughly.
Show me the last bill here. And now, in what month did you leave, sir?
May.
Now take out your last check register. I love it when a game plan comes together. Your last check register, sir, since May.
This particular one right here is one of the last ones that I made.
The last bill that came from NBA and stuff, I think, is what you want.
May. What date did he leave?
May 1st.
May 1st.
That's what time I told him to get out. He came.
Just a second. Shh. Is your credit card MBNA?
That's mine.
That's yours. All right. So here we have MBNA, $140. And then we're going to go down, and I'm going to see if I can find after May the rest of the $800. Let's see here. I must be missing something.
It might be right in April, too, when I paid some money.
We're not talking about April. I'm talking about since you left, sir.
Well,
I speak English. Do you speak English?
Yeah.
You said after May, after you left, he gave her about $800. And that your check register is accurate. So I see May 15th, $140. I'm just looking for the rest of the $800. I see one in July to a Powerhouse Gym for $350.
No,
Just later.
That's something else.
That's something else.
And that might be not the most current one because I had to change bank accounts.
No, this goes, sir, through all of the months. June, July, August. This does everything.
I know, but I have two different checking accounts.
Sir, you see anything written on my forehead? Huh?
No.
Who's Nicole?
My hairstylist.
Pays $72 to get your hair styled.
He pays for his
They're ripping you off,
well.
sir. Well, so far, sir, all I see of the $800 is $140. Nothing else. I see another $380 for your gym. spend a lot of money between your haircuts and gym. Nothing for what you owe.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Sir, you have to take responsibility for what you do. These people are not related to you by blood. They are not related to you by marriage.
Thank
You
God.
had a relationship with this young lady. She thought it would work out. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. In any event, you spent a lot of their money. Not only did you spend it, you enjoyed it, and you have the fruits of it. You're driving around in a car unless you sold it that they fixed. You're wearing nice clothes that they paid for. You have a nice stereo system that you listen to. And on and on and on, based on these bills that you say you saw. So you owe them the money. And your excuse that you didn't have an agreement with them is just a lot of baloney. I mean, I don't think that these are ladies that have an awful lot of money. And I think, furthermore, your conduct, knowing that you owe them the money and spending in 2 months' period of time almost $800 on a gym and $70 to get your hair coiffed is a lot of nerve. So the judgment in the case is for one plaintiff in the amount of $3,000 and the other in the amount of $4,900. That's all.
Pardon our excuse, you may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
She's a very jealous person, but that's besides the point.
I also have witnesses that saw him the night I found out he cheated on me. He took my head and shoved it in the car seat. But that's a different story. I'm out of that relationship, and I'm glad because I'm still alive.
With this gentleman, you are becoming engaged, is that right?
Yes. Yes.
According to you, you picked out a ring that you liked. He didn't have any money or any credit.
None whatsoever.
So you put your ring on your credit card.
Exactly.
First mistake.
Exactly. Exactly.
In addition to that, you say he charged some tires on a credit card, 4 tires on a credit card of yours without your permission. To make a long story short, you're here, so that means you're no longer engaged.
Exactly. We are no longer engaged. We're no longer in speaking terms whatsoever.
And so tell me what you want from him.
I want him to pay half of the engagement ring that he gave me, that we both went together to go get. I have the appraisal. I also have the appraisal on the ring.
I'm not interested in the appraisal.
Okay.
I'm interested in the bill of sale.
Okay.
Where is
I
it?
have the bill of sale.
Can I have it, please? Okay. 26/27/94. Now, how long did this love affair last after the ring was bought?
Not long.
How long?
Till May 31st.
Well, when was the ring purchased?
February 23rd.
So.
But I had no. I'm sorry, Your Honor, but I didn't walk out of the relationship. He did. He walked out.
I assume you weren't getting along?
It wasn't going anywhere, and so, but I tried to work it out. He didn't want to, so therefore he walked out.
Well, that's probably a good idea, right?
Yes, but he left me with the bill, and I thought that because of his promise that he made that he was going to pay for part of the ring, I expected that in return.
Now I'm going to ask you this question. Why didn't you take the ring back to the jeweler?
I did. They would not give me my money back. They asked for credit, and I said, okay, fine. I then called Mr. Villalpando and asked him, look, I don't want you to be without anything, and I don't want to be without anything. Therefore, you get $1,500 worth of the ring, and I'll get $1,500 worth. And I did call him on that, because I no longer want the ring. I told Mr. Villalpando.
So why didn't you sell it?
I tried. You know how hard it is to sell a ring? I've tried for the months that went by. I've tried to sell that ring, and I can't.
Okay. Now, sir, you acknowledge, let's get rid of the tire question.
Okay.
Okay? Because I don't think that you deny that you signed her name and that you bought the tires, correct?
On the credit card for the tires, correct.
All right. And the tires were $330?
Correct.
Did you pay her back?
I paid her $315, so I owe her $15.
No,
Let me see.
My first payment was made cash, and I got 2 check duplicates. If you need to subpoena my bank records.
I don't subpoena anything, sir.
Okay.
I'm not your lawyer. I'm the judge.
Your Honor,
On those checks that he gave me, that was part of the rent and the electric bills that he left me stuck with because he did not pay for anything. Everything is under my name in that apartment because Mr. Villalpando, again, has no credit whatsoever. He claimed bankruptcy in the beginning of January.
Did you leave her with any bills when you
No,
left?
ma'am. I used to bring my checks, and she's the one that took care of the finance.
That's not true. That's not true. We did both of our finances together. We did both of them together. He couldn't write the check on the apartment because of the fact that it was not leased under his name.
Okay. Now, sir, do you have any payments that you made to her in June of '97?
The only payments I made to her, ma'am, are those two and the one cash payment I made before those two.
All right, so now I understand this. Would you give this back?
Sure.
Tires. You owe her $330. Now, let's get to the ring. Tell me about the ring, because your story was an interesting one, sir.
Well, on the ring, we had an agreement, yes, that she was going to allow me to charge a ring so I can get her because of my credit pass from a divorce that pretty much ruined my credit. Anyways, I went out and I found a ring that I wanted to get her, and I took her to the store, and she pretty much made me feel about this little because the ring wasn't nice enough, big enough, and gaudy enough, and she specifically told me it had to be bigger than my ex-wife's. And I believe the ring was almost 2 carats as it was, and my ex-wife was only like 1 carat.
Your Honor.
So,
shh. Sir, listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Very nice ring. It's not 2 carats.
Correct.
This is not 2 carats.
Correct.
Okay. So, go ahead. So
And
you took her to the store, and you found a ring that you liked.
I found a ring. As a matter of fact, they were even having a big sale, so it was like a real good deal, everything. And she did not want it. It wasn't what she wanted and stuff like that. And to me, I felt like, I'm buying it as a gift. You should appreciate what I'm getting you. And that's
So what happened? So you're at the store, and
So
she
we're at
doesn't
the
like
store.
the ring.
She didn't like it, and so we didn't get a ring that day. And she decided she wanted to get a ring that she would like.
But you went with her again to find a ring that she liked.
Correct.
Okay.
And when she finally discovered the ring that she wanted, she asked me what I thought of it, and I told her it's up to her. And that's where it went, and she bought it and signed for it.
But you also promised that you were going to pay for half of it, or actually pay for the gift because it was a gift coming from you, considering the fact that you wanted to get engaged, Andy. You did.
My agreement, I'm sorry.
Your agreement was what?
My agreement was that I was going to pay for the ring that I was going to get her, not something that she didn't approve of or like and wanted.
No, that doesn't make sense, my friend. That doesn't make sense, my friend. Now it makes sense to you. Now it's a good story. Now I can understand that you went and found a ring, a little too small, not exactly what you wanted. She said she'd like something else. You went shopping with her again because I assume at that point you were still in love and you were planning on getting married, and at that point I assume you wanted her to be happy with the ring. That's why you went with her again. Doesn't look like anybody drags you any place where you don't want to go. And I assume that if the relationship had progressed and you married, that you would have made payments on this engagement ring that you gave her.
It probably would have came out of a joint checking account, yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I can't pay a $3,000 ring on my income, and I know he probably couldn't do it either, but it was something that he promised to pay, and it was a gift from him.
And later today,
I lost my best friend. I stole 2 rings from her, knowing what I was doing, and I took him to a drug dealer to pay off the debt.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 27-year-old Nadine Munoz claims her former fiancé, 27-year-old Andy Villalpando, cheated on her. So she's suing to recover the money she put toward her own engagement ring.
So what you have is a very interesting scenario, Miss Munoz. The ring should go back to him because it is an engagement ring.
Okay, I don't mind him having the ring as long as he pays the account.
Now, when you made this deal with him, was he supposed to pay for the whole ring?
He was supposed to, he made a verbal promise that he was going to pay for the whole ring. But when I brought him to court, I was being very noble by paying half.
Okay. Well, this was an engagement ring. Women don't pay for their own engagement rings unless they're crazy. She doesn't sound to me like she's crazy. And my sense is that at least at the time that she purchased this ring on her credit, it was something that you intended to pay for because it was an engagement ring. That's what happens. A man buys a woman an engagement ring. The fact that she didn't like the first ring, sir,
That's not an excuse. That's just a good story that you made up, that you were willing to pay for the first one but not the second one. Because that's pretty much what you're telling me. And if you weren't willing to pay for the second one, then you wouldn't have and shouldn't have gone shopping with her for a second one. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, this whole ring was $2,627.94. And, sir, I don't think you paid her for the tires at all. So, Mr. Munoz, you just bought yourself a beautiful engagement ring and 4 new tires for the total price of $2,957.94. Judgment for the plaintiff in that amount. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Have the back door to your right.
I wanted friendship afterwards, and I stated it strongly with him that I wanted friendship, but I didn't want to be lied to like he lied to me.
I'm sorry this all happened.
No problem.
And now the next case.
Parties on Golda versus Greer. Step forward, please.
37-year-old Laura Golder is suing her best friend of 15 years, 31-year-old Liza Greer, claiming she stole 2 rings to pay off a drug dealer.
Miss Greer, I'm going to start with you. Because, quite frankly, I don't think that the facts in this case are really in dispute. You two ladies were friends for a very long time.
15 years.
And, Miss Greer, you acknowledged that there was a period of time when you had a severe drug problem, correct?
Yes, and alcohol.
And you were indebted to a drug dealer for some money.
Correct.
How much money did you owe him?
Well, at the time I owed him about $375, give or take a few.
And you were pretty strung out.
Yes.
She was your dear friend.
Yes.
So you stole 2 rings from her.
Yes, I did.
And you gave one of the rings to the dealer.
Actually, I gave both of the rings to the dealer for collateral, and I was hoping to get him money because he was threatening my life, and he was a very dangerous man, and I was very frightened. And I was sober at the time, but that evening I relapsed from the stress, and I drank. And when I went over to my girlfriend's house where she was, we were together and consoling me, that evening I did something completely out of the ordinary, something I'm very upset about, I'm very remorseful for. I lost my best friend. I stole 2 rings from her, knowing what I was doing, and I took them to a drug dealer to pay off the debt. And when I tried to get them back, he wouldn't give them to me. And the next day I turned myself into the police, and I told them what happened and what I did.
When did you find the rings missing?
The morning that she left my apartment.
How'd you feel?
Extremely upset.
Did you try to contact her?
I contacted her mother and her sister and told them what happened, and they said call the police.
You got one of the rings back?
Yes.
The other one you did not?
Yes, correct.
What did he do, sell it or dispose of it in some way?
We don't know. He's saying he's innocent, and we can't talk to him. I can't get the rings back, but I want to pay her back. I just said I don't have a lot.
How did you get the one ring back?
That's kind of on her part, and I'm not talking to her right now, so you need to ask.
The police have it as evidence.
But they're holding it, so that one
Yes.
you have. The only dispute in this case is to the value of the ring. How much did you pay for the ring?
$7,000. I have the receipts and all the appraisal and everything right here.
I'm not interested in the appraisal, just the receipt, how much you paid for it. You bought this ring at a very upscale store. And there were 2 pieces of fine jewelry that you bought. One was for $7,000, one is for $2,500. What were the 2 pieces that you bought?
The $7,000 was the ring, and the $2,500 was the earrings to go with it.
And you have the earrings?
Yes.
Just a lot of money to spend on a ring, but...
Did you notice it was a charge card? I like to live over my means. I like to have what I like.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It was either taking your jewelry or going out and mugging somebody or getting killed herself. Because, drug dealers can be not can be, are despicable pun scum.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Liza Greer admits to stealing 2 rings, but says they are worth thousands less than Laura Golder claims.
Miss Greer, I'm going to let you tell me in your own words what your defense is to this lawsuit.
Okay. Okay, I'm not saying that I don't owe her the money because I took the rings. I'm taking responsibility for it. I've done everything I can and my possible means of helping her get the ring back and going to court, turning myself in. I just feel that the designer for the ring is what I'd be paying for and not the value of the diamonds and the gold.
Okay.
I just feel it would be, it's just ridiculous to pay for a designer. It's not ridiculous, but it's just, I mean, $7,000 for a designer when the actual ring is only worth
Liza,
$3,000.
that's what I paid for the ring, though.
Shh. Let me tell you this. What you're suggesting is as follows. If somebody steals a Renoir, you know what that is?
Yes.
And says, well, I'm prepared to pay for the canvas and for the paint that was used, but I'm not prepared to pay $5 million for this painting. I mean, because after all this painting is a canvas and some paint. I don't have to pay for the designer Renoir after all. She went to a store that is a high-end store. I'm not even going to mention the store.
Shall I?
No. But I want to tell you something. Anybody that buys a piece of jewelry in this high-end store, what I'm telling you is you're entitled to do with your money whatever you want to do with it. But I saw a picture of the ring. It's a nice little ring. Is all
Really
of it put
nice
together
ring.
worth $7,000? Who knows? But that's what she paid for it. And you stole it. And she doesn't have it back. And she's entitled to be made whole. Because whatever it is, she's out $7,000 and she doesn't have her ring because of you.
I know.
So, I mean, the limit of my jurisdiction is $5,000. She understood that when she came to this court, right?
Yes.
You've been in treatment?
Yes. I've been sober ever since.
How long?
It's 2.5 months now.
It's not a long time.
No, but it's still longer than I had 2.5 months ago.
I know.
And I'm also on Prozac, and I've been with a psychiatrist, and it was a very sobering experience. And I'm pregnant, so it's devastating to me what I've done. And I lost my best friend.
Doesn't sound as if this was a great year for you. Next year will be better.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Miss Golder.
Yes.
She hasn't had a good time. She brought it about by herself. She knows that. I have a feeling that she understands that. You've been a friend for a long time. I'm going to give you your $5,000. I absolutely believe that you are entitled to that. I think Miss Greer believes that you're entitled to that, too. She feels terrible. I am quite sure that when you woke up in the morning and found your jewelry missing and realized who took your jewelry, you felt devastated.
That she would do something like that to me.
Right. She was really, at that point, I honestly believe, pushed to the wall, and she didn't know what to do. It was either taking your jewelry or going out and mugging somebody or getting killed herself. Because, you know, drug dealers can be, not can be, are despicable pun scum. And they can be deadly despicable pun scum. So she was afraid. That doesn't excuse her. But if she's sober, and I believe that she is because she's been very honest with me otherwise, she probably could use all the support she can get. Well, Miss Greer, you have a responsibility now that is far beyond a responsibility to yourself.
I know.
And if you ever think of relapsing, I suggest that you take yourself a visit to a
Rehab.
local hospital.
Right.
And go into the neonatal intensive care unit and see what a baby looks like when they're born with heroin or cocaine withdrawal.
Right.
I guarantee you that that will be a more sobering experience than the one you had here. Got it? All right. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000.
I'm sorry,
Thank
Laura.
Parties are excused. You can step out. I'll be back to you right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I could go to jail. I mean, right now, I could go to jail. I just don't, I never thought I was that kind of a person. The one thing that I think that Judge Judy gave me back was my friend, because she wasn't even speaking to me before. To me, the value of her friendship is worth more than the money itself. And I did something wrong, and this is a lesson that had to be learned.
I always forgive her. I always forgive her. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Laura.
I know.
Thank you very much for your time. Best of luck.
Thank you, Judge Judy.
Ms. Cameroni, parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
All right, the chronological posture of this case is as follows. You, sir, are employed in a jail.
Yes.
As a guard.
As a deputy, yes, ma'am.
And there came a time when you, Miss Cameroni, were an inmate in that jail, having been convicted of some speeding violation. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
You claim that while you were in the jail, you were subjected to maltreatment by the plaintiff.
Yes, that's correct.
You complained to your husband. Is that you?
Yes.
Who sent faxes to the warden.
That's correct.
And as a result of those faxes, you were further mistreated by the plaintiff. Then you served your time, you got out of jail, and you started to write on the internet about the plaintiff and about the things that you suffered from while you were in jail at his hands. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And you're suing her for slandering you.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever sue him?
No, I did not.
You chose to take out whatever anger that you had by using the computer.
Well, I chose to tell my story through a website instead of suing civilly.
Okay. How long have you been employed as a deputy in the jail, sir?
3 years, ma'am.
And what were you doing in the jail? You were there for the speeding ticket. For how long were you actually incarcerated?
I was incarcerated for 3.5 months.
Why? That was a pretty long time for a speeding ticket.
Well, back in 1993, I had drove my Corvette at 145 miles an hour up the freeway.
Why would you do that?
I realized it was wrong and I shouldn't have done it. And it was a long time ago, and I know it was dangerous. But the treatment that he put me through...
No, I'm not getting to the treatment. So that's what you were there for.
Yes.
Now, tell me about the first time you had a contact with him.
That was June 6th of 1997. He was on night duty at the time, and he was assigned to the tower and the walkthroughs. And he would open and shut the door all night, a loud metal door, so I could not sleep. And then when the sergeant came through at 8 a.m. and asked me why I was still sleeping, I told him I couldn't sleep because of the loud door opening and shutting. And the sergeant says, I'll take care of it, it won't happen again. And that took care of that situation. I started having problems again when I filed a habeas with the court, which was not welcome with many of the jail staff.
What kind of habeas?
I was being denied medication that my doctor had prescribed.
What kind of prescriptions were you supposed to be taking? Don't show me letters. Look at me. Stop playing with papers.
Okay. I was supposed to be taking pain medication and Luvox. And
what was that for?
It was for my depression. I went through a court-ordered psychiatric review.
So you were supposed to be taking medicine, psychiatric,
yeah,
for psychiatric problems.
Yes, and then for my insomnia, I was supposed to take something for that.
So you filed a habeas corpus proceeding because you said that they refused to give you that medication.
Right.
And were you ultimately given the medication?
After the habeas corpus proceedings, yes.
Well, what'd that have to do with him?
Well, when I had come back from court to the jail, he was the one who removed the handcuffs and the shackles, and he was very rough in twisting my arms. And he was telling me, I hope it was worth it when he was removing the handcuffs.
So when was the next time you had a problem with him?
Well, after that, I had constant problems with him.
Tell me about them.
And with another inmate. Well, there was a particular inmate in there who...
And now, are these things that you memorialized on your website on the internet?
I didn't go into detail on my website.
Do you have what you complain about, sir, in writing?
Yes,
that she wrote on the internet?
Yes, ma'am. I have parts of it, yes.
Can I see it, please?
The second paragraph on the first page is the beginning of it.
This is an accounting of life in jail and the very unprofessional conduct of two deputies in particular, another deputy and yourself, okay, towards her.
Yes, ma'am.
So far this doesn't say anything. I want to see particularly what she says about you so I can address each of those things. Would you have him put a star next to the things that he's actually complaining about so that I could...
Ma'am, that's kind of hard to say.
No, I want to see, sir.
Well,
you are alleging that she either libeled and or slandered you.
Well, that's what I need to explain, ma'am. It's not just what she said. It's the context of my name is now associated with this website on the very first page of it, and it contains words rape, prejudice,
Show
racism.
me where that's alleged that you were any part of that, sir.
By
Show me.
reading it, ma'am, a normal person reading that will get my name twisted into that and see this.
Just a second. She doesn't allege anywhere in here that you raped her, correct?
No, ma'am.
She doesn't allege anywhere in here that you beat her, correct?
No, ma'am.
It says, gives a whole litany of her experiences in the jail, which may have included those things. But with regard to you, all it says is, the fact is that Deputy Birmingham acted in an unprofessional manner on numerous occasions while she was in custody. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what you're complaining about.
Why is my name on the internet? This isn't anything to do with free speech. This isn't anything to do with her trying to raise funds to go to Supreme Court or anything like that. This is just her ill will to try to get revenge, and my name doesn't belong on the first page of her website.
Well, you were employed at the jail when she was there, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember her when she was an inmate?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Tell me what you remember about her.
I remember basically she'd complain about everything. She accused everybody of doing something wrong. She was just not your model inmate.
Mm-hmm. And how did you react to that, sir?
I didn't care. I was just doing my job, doing my 8 hours and going home.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
And he'd say things to me like, I could make it worse for you here. She could snap your little ass right in half.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sheriff's Deputy Eric Birmingham says former inmate Judy Cameroni slandered him. Judy says he mistreated her in jail.
Mr. Birmingham, you've been employed according to you for 3 years?
Yes, ma'am.
How many disciplinary proceedings have ever been filed against you?
None, ma'am.
Are you still employed there?
Yes, ma'am.
You want to tell me, madam, what are the things you are specifically complaining about that he did to you? Tell me.
Okay, there was another inmate there who was she was the lover of the jail cook's daughter.
Oh, yeah.
And she was in there for, oh, no.
The lover of the inmate.
The lover of the jail cook's daughter.
Go. Do this one more time.
She was the lover of the jail cook's daughter.
Okay.
Okay. And she was a very tough woman. She had been incarcerated for beating up 2 of their sheriffs. So she was very tough and very large. And she gave me a very difficult time there. Many times she would back me into the wall and threaten to beat me up, and guards would come running to stop her. Every time she would do something bad to me, and it came down to discipline, she was not disciplined. And Deputy Birmingham chose not to discipline her, and many of the times when we had conflicts where she instigated it, he would choose not to discipline her. And it just made matters worse, and I felt it was very unprofessional for him to do this.
What's next?
It's just caused her to be more bold.
What's next?
Well, my husband sent a fax to the sheriff, which he had intercepted, Mr. Birmingham intercepted. He came up to my cell, dumped out my coffee, which I had to purchase through commissary, and he said he was sick and tired of me. He had the fax in his hand, and he says, you better call your husband and tell him not to send any more faxes.
Does that sound familiar to you?
No, ma'am.
That doesn't sound familiar to you?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Birmingham, are you trying to tell me that a fax of complaint was never received by you, indicating that you failed to take steps to protect this then inmate?
No, ma'am.
You never saw that?
No, ma'am.
He came into your cell with the fax?
Yes, he did, and he dumped out my coffee. And I felt that his unprofessional conduct was putting my safety in jeopardy. You know, and he'd say things to me like, I could make it worse for you here. She could snap your little ass right in half, and things like this.
When did he say that to you?
When he had the fax and dumped the coffee out.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Are you still taking medication?
Yes, I am.
Still the antidepressant medication?
Yes.
Were you on that medication before you were incarcerated?
Yes, I was.
Is this the first time you were incarcerated?
Yes, it was my first and only offense, and I haven't committed any crime since.
This was your first and only arrest?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Did you know that?
Frankly, ma'am, I didn't care.
Sure you did. Well, let me tell you why.
I had no business.
Let me tell
to
you
know.
why, Officer Birmingham. Here you're dealing with a woman, married woman, have children.
Baby.
Mm-hmm. And did something really dumb 4 years before. By the time it got through the process, only arrest, here she's given over 3 months to serve in jail. Pretty frightening prospect, wouldn't you say?
Can I add some clarification there?
Sure.
Okay. First of all, she spent approximately, and I'm not sure the number, 20 days back in 91 or whenever she was first arrested. She was committed after a trial and then got out on an appeal bond. So she had spent 20 to 30 days there already.
So you knew a little bit about her history, Officer.
Mm-hmm.
Now I do. Now I do, yes, ma'am.
Oh, sir.
He
Are you
knew.
telling me at the time that you folks were having, according to you, lots of difficulty with her husband faxing and everything else, that you didn't open up the file and take a look at it? Are you
I knew what she was there for, yes, ma'am.
Here was an inmate who was given lots of problems, who was not prepared to accept the regular drill of being in jail, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And that presented a certain amount of irritation for all the people in jail. Now, how many guards are there in jail?
It depends on the shift in the day.
Give me some idea of how many people she would have come in contact with between all the shifts.
4 to 5 a shift. It's a small jail.
4 to 5 a shift and 3 shifts a day.
Yes, ma'am.
So 20 people.
Give or say.
She doesn't complain about all 20, right?
Yes, ma'am.
She only complains about really 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know, ma'am. If she had such a problem with me, then why didn't she file a complaint with my department?
Yes, but she did. She complained through him. She complained, sent a fax. I believe her when she says that you walked into her jail cell with the fax, irritated as hell. I believe her. She doesn't accuse you of any criminal behavior. She says that you were guilty of unprofessional behavior. That's a subjective term.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I could pick up the phone, it's only 2 o'clock, and saved my little baby. 600-mile round trip. And that she wouldn't see me.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Prison guard Eric Birmingham says former inmate Judy Cameroni has damaged his reputation on the internet. She says he mistreated her.
Certainly what she's saying is you failed to protect her from another inmate who was dangerous. And that what you were really telling her was, listen, babe, you better just do your time quietly, stop complaining, stop making a pest out of yourself. Because if you do, there are things that we could do to make your life unpleasant. Is that what you're complaining about?
Yes, and he also, what he did was, the worst thing that he did was, he did a walkthrough, and he told me when I was watching the news sitting on a bunk, stand up, don't sit on the bunk. I sat on the ground. He says, don't sit on the ground, remain standing. So I remained standing. And then he continued the walkthrough upstairs and left. And I had laughed at a sexual remark that another inmate had made towards him, which is not allowed, but he did not discipline her for it because he welcomes these kind of remarks. And I had laughed, I've got dizzy, I sat down, and I got back up, and I knew I shouldn't have sat down on the bunk. So when he came back around the front door, and I was standing right by the phone, and he says, I'm putting you in lockdown, and tomorrow you cannot see your baby. So I told him, look, I'm standing right by the phone. I could pick up the phone, it's only 2 o'clock, and save my little baby. 600-mile round trip, and then she wouldn't see me. He says, I don't care. And I says, well, then you could have someone else call my husband not to make the trip. He would not do that. But you see, here's the disciplinary action he wrote up, and then he also took away my visiting privileges for 2 weeks, and that's all I had left.
Why did you take away Why did you take away a visiting privilege?
I did not take the visiting away.
What did you do?
It's a disciplinary review board.
What did you write her up for?
If I remember the incident, we had an extra bunk out in the day room area, and the rules state don't use anything it's not intended for. Okay, and she was sitting on the bunk watching TV, and like I told other people or whatever, and told her to sit down over on the tables. But I have no say on whether she loses visits or not. That's the
That's not my question. What this incident that you were talking about, that you wrote her up for?
I believe so. Yes, ma'am.
You wrote her up for was because she was sitting on a spare bunk rather than sitting on the table. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Jail is designed to have rules and to have structure, and that's all it is.
Did you know, Officer Birmingham, that she was supposed to have her visiting with her baby on the next day?
No, ma'am.
Does that sound familiar to you?
No, ma'am.
Doesn't sound familiar.
The only time they can make appointments for visits is on the day of the visit. So I would have no say or no knowledge of her having a visit.
Officer Birmingham, are you telling me, sir, that she did not say to you, if you're going to take away my visits, let me call my husband and tell him not to make this 600-mile trip? That doesn't sound familiar to you?
No, ma'am. I don't know.
You don't know if it sounds familiar. Is that what you're saying?
I don't remember hearing that, no.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Look, I'm going to resolve this matter very quickly.
Okay.
Officer Birmingham, you are in fact suing her. You are suing her for slander, for saying terrible things about you on the internet, on the website. I don't find that she said anything that was terrible about you. She said that you engaged in unprofessional conduct towards her while she was an inmate in the jail. If I have to make a determination today whether or not any of that is true, I would have to say, yes, I believe that you behaved in an unprofessional manner towards the defendant who was an inmate in your jail. And therefore, your lawsuit would be dismissed because truth is an absolute defense. I believe her, sir, when she says that you took her handcuffs off in a rough fashion, that you came into her room with a fax in your hand, spilled her coffee and said, listen, don't do this again, because I can make your life unpleasant here. And I do believe that you wrote her up for sitting on a bed rather than sitting on a table, which caused her to lose her visitation privileges with her child, and when asked whether you would please just call her husband not to make the trip, because the trip would be for naught, she was blown off. That, to me, sir, is unprofessional behavior. So your lawsuit's dismissed. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thanks, man.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Well, it's something I should have never done, and it was very dangerous, and I won't ever do it again. But I can't change the past, and I'm sorry for what I did. But in no way did that event back in 1993 justify the unprofessional behavior and the little extra punishment he decided to put upon me because of that.
কি অবস্থা তোমাদের?
গান মে জিউডাই কি দিয়ে দিলে নম্বরে
আমারও পরানো
এইখানে এনিমি আছে এক নাম্বার এখানে আমাকে মারছে এক নম্বর শেষ ও জোনের ভিতরে শেষ এই এনিমি আসবে এখানে বুঝছেন কি हम तो डबल विक्टर चलाएंगे 10 টাকা দে এই এনিমিটা আসছে এখানে
अरे भाई আমার তো এখানে আমি যদি ল্যান্ড করতে পারতাম দুটো ল্যান্ডমাইন
खत्म हो गया सब कुछ खत्म हो गया
हम तो डबल विक्टर चलाएंगे कुछ नहीं हिंदी पढ़ता इसके पास नहीं डबल विक्टर কে চালায় জানেন যারা হচ্ছে মানে আপনাকে বট না মানে যারা বট তারা হচ্ছে ডবল বিক্টর চালায় আপনি না এদের একটা ঠেলা দিয়ে ইস রে মিস গেল গা মিস গেল আবার যাই চেষ্টা করলে কি জানি মিলে জানিও না থাক সোলটাক মারা উচিত সোলটা তো খুব এটা মনে হয় লাস্ট ওয়ান আছে তার জন্য শেষ মুকুল ভাই শেষ হ্যাকার মেরে করেন ওখান কানেক্ট করে একজনকে নামান ভাই টোকেন নাই এই ভাই আমার গাড়ি ওইদিকে কান না ওইদিকে টোকেন কান না ও ভাই গাড়ি একা একা দৌড়ছে এটা তো কই গাড়ি को रुको लाइक करो इसको लाइक करो गाड़ी को रुको এই মুকুল ভাই একটা কথা জানেন वो एक खेला देंगे हम लोग स्नाइपर स्नाइपर আপনি মাইনাস খাইছেন আতাউল ভাই মাইনাস খাইছেন আমি শিওর মাইনাস খাইছেন ভাই আমাকে মাইনাস না খেলেও 17 দেই খেলেও 17 এটা আবার কি কলম কি মাইনাস খেলেও 17 না খেলেও 17 পুরো পুরো একটা অবস্থা চলতেছে বিরাজমান চরম একটা অবস্থা গাইস যারা দেখলো অবশ্যই লাইক শেয়ার ঝটপট উড়াধুরা করা নাই চিল
এ ভাই টিম কোড দেন বড় ভাই টিম কোড দেন
ওকে 2+ হয়েছে আমরা টিম কোড দিয়ে দিব আগুনে আবারো চলো
দুইজন রে বের করে দেন আমরা দুইজন আসি
দুইজন বলতে একটা সিট ফাঁকা আছে আর কেউ আসবে
দুইজন
আচ্ছা থামো তাহলে আরেকটা ম্যাচ খেলে আসি থামো
ব্যাগই নিয়ে গেছে এই র‍্যান্ডম
থামো আমি স্কোয়াড বানাচ্ছি চলে আসো টিম কোড আস 48
তারপর
73144
73144
একদম তো গেলে হলো না আমরা তো খাটনি করনু কে লাগানিসটা
আর কেউ
কাউরে একটা নি
হে তুম হে श्याम
हम तुम है खिलाते हिलाते हुए
नहीं श्याम चेक माय बायो
কি লেখো খাচ্ছ জানা নাকি তুমি বাবু এই তো
ওকে গাইস চলো আমরা ম্যাচ স্টার্ট করে দিব এখনই সো সবাই একটু লাইক শেয়ারটা করে দিয়ে ঝটপট জয়েন হয়ে যাও আমাদের সাথে
এই লাইভ স্ট্রিম আমরা খুব মারা থেকে বেড়াইতে लड़कियों में मुझका ऐट नहीं धरता वाह क्या जिंदगी आ गया
वाह के हिंदी बोला
আমার স্কোর বিলো 90 এই ইয়ার
ব্রো কিন্তু দাও
আর অনেক নাই আমার
তুমি বের হয়ে যাও তোমার স্কোর কম
আরে আমার অনেক
টিম কোডটা দাও
হ্যাঁ
না হিপ হপ টিম কোডটা দাও
টিম কোড হচ্ছে 4873144 4873144 ওকে আর তো আসবে না
জুস পিলা